Good evening and welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of Thursday, June 11, 2026. At this time, I'm going to call upon everyone so we can stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd ask you all to remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our soldiers, past and present, especially those that are in the Middle East in harm's way. Thank you. All right, so I have a couple of announcements to make. First, this meeting is being recorded by Dartmouth Community Media, and that the next 40B hearing will be heard this evening at 6 o'clock here in this room, and it's for the Hathaway project on Hathaway Road. And the other scheduled 40B hearing is the Sherbrooke Farms, which is Old Westport Road, which is scheduled for, as we stand, July 9th of 2026 at 6 o'clock p.m. here in room 304. So moving on to the public hearings portion of tonight's meeting, we have a public hearing for a special permit ZSP 5-6. This was actually a continued matter. The petition of the applicant in this case is Jenny Reynolds. The owner is Tracy Noonan, manager of 8 Bono Court, LLC. The subject property is located at 8 Bono Court, also known as map 121, lot 19. The property is located in the general residence zoning district, and it was legally advertised on January 22nd and January 29th of this year. We've already waived the reading of the abutters list prior to tonight. And the petitioner in this case is seeking a special permit proposing to construct a 576 square foot addition to a non-conforming structure built in 1950, which is required to increase to the nonconformity of the structure. The current structure meets one 10-foot required yard setback and the front yard setback of 20 feet. The addition is proposed to be built 11.9 feet from the street. They're seeking relief under Article 10, Section 375-10.4D3B setbacks and Section 375-6.2B2 nonconforming structures. The property is located at 8 Bono Court in the General Residence District and identified as Assessors Map 121, Lot 19. All right, so we've already read into the record the letter from the building inspector. We've also heard from numerous of the surrounding neighbors and abutters. But since the last time, we've had a new plan submitted, and it was submitted by Farland Corp., which we'll get to at some point. And I did receive a letter, and it's dated June 11th, and it came from a Sean Redfern, and it's directed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it says, "Dear Chair and members of the board, as a registered architect in the state of Massachusetts, I formally object to the requested special permit for front yard dimensional relief at 8 Bono Court. Special permits must be strict exceptions reserved for projects that demonstrate true necessity and safeguard the public good. In my opinion, the applicant fails to meet this standard by proposing an 8.1-foot extension into the required 20-foot front yard setback on a substandard lot under 5,000 square feet in the general residence district. The applicant offers no valid justification for this encroachment. The fundamental question that we should be asking is could this project be built within the town's existing zoning rules? The applicant's floor plans present oversized spaces that serve as a luxury rather than meeting a functional necessity. On the main level, the applicant proposes a 350 square foot bedroom without demonstrating any functional need or hardship that justifies zoning relief for this scale. At the upper floor, the applicant proposes a 350 square foot artist studio equipped with a walk-in closet and full bathroom. Both a modest-sized bedroom and artist studio can be fully accommodated within the allowable buildable area of the lot, leading me to question the actual need for relief. A special permit should not be used as an easy pass to bypass the standard zoning layout rules for oversized designs, nor should it substitute for the more stringent variance required by the town's zoning bylaws. As a practicing architect, I know firsthand that the highest quality designs do not come from unchecked expansion. They come from working within constraints. Standard zoning limits challenge designers to think critically about building layout massing, efficiency, and overall harmony with the site. Allowing the applicant to circumvent these regulations discourages thoughtful design and promotes excessive development, ignoring the precise spatial limitations enacted by the town. As a direct neighbor to 8 Bono Court, I am especially asking the board to deny the request for a special permit for front yard setback relief. Leaving a buffer of only 11.9 feet from the private right-of-way means this structure will sit much closer to the road than any of the neighboring homes on Bono Court. To qualify for relief under Article 45, the applicant must demonstrate that the project aligns with the town's zoning laws and will not adversely affect the community. I believe this proposal fails that test on the following accounts. 1, it threatens neighborhood character. Introducing an oversized addition into the building setback requirement severely impacts neighborhood character. The proposed oversized structure will cause visual overcrowding, disrupt the streetscape, uniformity, block light, and restrict airflow, setting a detrimental precedent for the neighborhood. These adverse impacts will inevitably compromise the open character of our neighborhood while also diminishing the value of our properties. 2, public safety. The proposed encroachment poses a threat to public safety on Bono Court. Setbacks exist to prevent the spread of structure fires. Narrowing the setback requirements creates a direct safety hazard and restricts emergency access for fighting fires. The encroachment also blocks critical sight lines for pedestrian access to the water along the private way and risks damaging both the town's sewer infrastructure and private roadway during construction. 3, it weakens the town of Dartmouth zoning bylaws. Granting relief when a fully compliant design is possible directly undermines the integrity, strength, and effectiveness of the town of Dartmouth dimensional bylaws. Approving exceptions for non-essential spaces renders setback rules meaningless and unfairly prioritizes the applicant's private preferences and financial gain over the town's established density protections for the neighborhood. The applicant has failed to establish a unique hardship or land use requirement that justifies exceeding the standard buildable area. Because the proposed encroachment worsens existing lot nonconformities, specifically regarding to lot coverage and front yard setbacks, it directly conflicts with Article 33 of the Dartmouth zoning bylaws. Under Article 33, setbacks are strictly intended to lessen congestion and promote community safety. Approving the special permit would directly subvert those local regulations. Upholding our local zoning bylaws is essential to preserving our neighborhood's character because the cumulative impact of this addition is significantly more detrimental than both the existing nonconforming structure and what is permitted by right. This special permit should be denied. I respectfully request that the board reject the application and instruct the applicant to redesign the project within the site's lawful buildable footprint and in compliance with the state building code. Thank you for your time, leadership, and continued service to our town. Sincerely, Sean Redfern. All right. So, can I get a motion to introduce and to place this on file, part of the record?
Sure.
I make a motion that we accept the letter dated June 11th, 2026 from Sean Redfern and make it part of the record.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, so we've also got some plans, which I'm sure the applicant's representative is going to explain to us. At this point in time, any questions, gentlemen? Before I call upon the applicant's representative?
Yeah, I believe from the last time we asked the applicant, we continued the hearing because you wanted to stake the addition out. And
That's
so
right. Did you happen to go by
I
there?
did, I did go by there,
Okay,
yeah.
and how about you, Mr. Human?
I did, but it hadn't been staked out.
Okay, fair enough. But you got a sense of what the neighborhood was like? Yes, I did. Okay.
It was like driving on a driveway.
Okay. So obviously, you've been there, because it's sort of my sense.
It was scary.
Okay. But anyway, gentlemen, do you have any questions at this point in time? All right, great. So I'm going to call upon the petitioner's representative. I see Mr. Fallon, he's here. Please state your name and state your case.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp., here tonight representing the applicant. At the last meeting, the board and I thought it would be a good idea for the board members to visit the site to get a really good idea of this. And I think that was important with this, especially this property.
I agree.
We did stake the property as requested. We also filed a site plan that the only difference on that site plan is that it shows the proposed deck towards the water. The architectural plans had the deck, but previous plan by Prime didn't show the deck, so we wanted to make sure that was part of the record. And also, we added another dimension to the setback. So the closest setback to the front is 12 feet, and the other corner is actually it's a foot of 1.2 feet away, 13.2 feet, just to give you an idea. If you had a chance to go out to the site, I think it's pretty clear that this project indeed fits within the character of the neighborhood, specifically with the direct abutter right to the south. That house is just as close. The neighbor to the east, side setback is closer than, it's about 4 feet away from the property. And majority of the butters here, although they're not in front of you tonight for an addition off their house, majority of the houses are within the side setbacks and front yard setbacks. So I think that's the critical point tonight, and which I made at the last meeting, which I did go over and provide, factual evidence of, aerial photos. And as far as, the addition, I think it's a very modest addition. It's 24 by 24. We're not looking to go any larger than that. The house itself is 1,296 square feet, which again is within same sizes as the houses within the neighborhood. Some of them are larger, some of them are a little smaller, but I think it's very, very consistent. That's all I had tonight, and I think, again, we're here for a special permit, and I think the key issue is whether or not the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. I certainly don't think it is. Certainly, there's no impacts to the sewer line during construction. Yes, during construction, it'll be a little hectic. That's a very hectic area. I mean, just driving in your car down here is hectic. But certainly, we've done projects on Cutty Hunk Island that we got to take a barge over. You got to have a mini. You can't get a large truck to the site. You got to have a mini come within a mile away and walk the mini in. So there's means and methods to construction, and those are temporary. So yeah, there will be a little impacts temporarily to the neighborhood, but I think at the end of the day, this will be a project that fits within the character of the project, and I hope you agree and can vote on this project tonight.
Thank you. All right. Anyone have any questions of the petitioner's representative, Mr. Farland?
Not at this time. Mr.
Not at
Chair.
this time.
Gentlemen, any questions of Mr. Farland?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Farland.
Thank you.
All right, so obviously, there has consistently, and I can see the familiar faces, there has consistently been people who have been present here, who are of the neighborhood, and also just other people in town, who have concern about this particular proposal. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. It is a public hearing. We have read the letter into the record from Mr. Redford. I think he's here. The standard of review, he touches upon it, right? It's not a variance, it's a special permit. So it's definitely a lesser standard of review than a variance. So we just have to find whether or not it's it's not any more detrimental to the neighborhood. That's basically the standard of review for us. And I'm looking for the buzzwords. I actually was looking through my phone, see if I could find the actual statute, because I left my code book, which is only about this thick. I left it back at the office. But, because I just wanted to read it line by line. And at some point, I'm going to read it into the record. I will locate it. But I will give people an opportunity if they want to come forward. I do know this, that the letter certainly sets forth, I think, the arguments that you collectively would hold as property owners in that general area. So if anyone would like to come up and explain to us if there's anything different than the last time of what we've heard, or if you want to just reinforce some particular point, I will give you the opportunity.
My name's Carrie Smith. I am one of the owners of 9 Bono Court. I've been asked to speak tonight on behalf of all the Bono Court neighbors that are here. First off, we just wanted to thank the board for the time you've taken over the last 3 meetings to listen to our concerns regarding this matter. We'd like to also thank those of you who took the time to come and look at the property, to see firsthand that our neighborhood is unique and differs from any other neighborhoods in Dartmouth. We understand the applicant has a right to request a building permit to construct an addition that complies with the current zoning regulations for properties within the general resident district, including the required 20-foot setback for the property line. We don't dispute this right. Our objection is specifically to the request for a special permit that would reduce the setback to only 11.9 feet from the property, instead of the required 20 feet. This request reflects a preference by the applicant and not a necessity, as the applicant can still build a substantial addition while remaining fully compliant with the existing building regulations. Granting this special permit would be a detriment based on what Mr. Redfern mentioned in his letter. For these reasons, we respectfully ask the board to take our concerns into consideration and deny the applicant's request for a special permit. Thank you again for your time, your consideration, and your willingness to listen to our concerns of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Come on up.
Sean Redfern, 5 Bono Court. I just wanted to add that your decision today, if you were to agree on the special permit, is going to set precedent for our neighborhood. And in the future, when other people on Bono Court decide they want to come and build a bigger house structure on their property, you've now set a precedent for them. So I want you to think about that when you're making your decision, because it is very detrimental to the rest of us in the neighborhood. The neighborhood. And then
I
else.
could just as well flip that. I could say that if we were to vote against this, that we've set precedent that any one of you that come before us for any type of an addition, that's any significance, there's likely to be a denial as well.
There could be, yes.
Okay. As long as everyone knows.
I don't think we would all, if we were all on board with accepting you granting a special permit, I don't think we would all be here objecting to it. I also wanted to ask the board, the drawings that have been submitted to you all, for the record, don't they need to specifically go through conservation before you guys can actually approve them?
No, they can decide where they want to go first. I think, quite frankly, many times strategically, an applicant comes to us because it's probably the more difficult of the approvals to obtain, and if they can't get it here, there's no use in going any further. So just strategically, I think most applicants come before, is that pretty much your understanding as well, gentlemen? I think most applicants just, as a matter of course, feel it's best come here first. So they would still obviously have to go to Concom, maybe Board of Health. That's obviously not directly within our purview, so.
Okay.
But they would have to do that.
I believe they did, though. With that.
I don't know.
They do.
I don't,
Yes.
well, they're going to, I don't know if they have already.
No, they did.
They did?
They
Okay.
did, but with the old,
Well, they
with the old
changed with the
drawings.
foundation design, I'm not sure if they have to go back. But they already, I think the line was approved with the limit of disturbance. It was approved by Concom. They had a notice of intent. Yes.
Up the deck,
If they
though?
did, if I saw it, I don't recall. But it's really not something that
Right.
it really impacts my decision. So, as a board, right, we have to collectively find, and this is the legal standard, I want to read it into the record. We have to find that the proposal to grant it, that the proposal is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw and ensures it will not cause substantial detriment to the neighborhood. If we feel that it meets those requirements, then we have an obligation individually to vote independently as to whether or not we feel it meets that requirement.
Okay,
And we've done that in the past, Mr. Chair.
And we have done it in the past.
okay. Thank you.
All right, and I'm not trying to take away from your argument, I'm just explaining.
No,
And it
I'm-
wasn't just directed
yeah.
towards you, that's directed towards everyone here who's an immediate abutter and all the viewers at home as to basically what we're charged with statutorily as a board in order to act either in favor or
Right.
to decline.
No, I realize that it's an interpretation. You guys are being asked to interpret the code, and I think we're interpreting in a way, and then you're interpreting it
Yep.
in a way, and we're just
No, I
trying
get
to
it. And
make
look,
sure that
I will
everyone's.
say this, I've been here 12 years. I will say that this group of neighbors has certainly put forth a very, very good position, very strong arguments to support what your concerns are. And kudos to you guys for that. You've done a very, very good job doing it. And it's inspiring to me to think that we still have that level of community within our town. All right?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hi there, I apologize, I didn't come up when the meeting started and announce that I am not here.
I took it as the same. There was a continuation.
Just in a butter. So we forwarded letters to you from Katie Pyatt, from the floodplain management specialist through FEMA. There were 2 emails.
Okay,
I had
yes.
sent one, and then Katie had actually reached out yesterday, and so I sent it again. And so the question or concern that I'm raising is, because we fall into that she figures it's a V17 flood zone. So when we've looked at the pictures of what this is going to look like, it has shown the addition being straight from the current elevation. But in fact, that addition would be raised significantly higher than the current addition, which is not depicted on any of the plans that we've seen. So is that something that is picked up when they go to the building department? I mean, what, is that something?
In my opinion, he could actually answer that better than me.
I think this is something that came up before, and I think I wasn't sold on that completely, that if your improvements is less than 50% of the value of the house or the structure, or if you're less than 50% of the entire, I think it says it in the regulations of the foundation or the perimeter, that you don't have to comply with regulations. But I personally believe that this is over the 50%. But again, it's building department, and he had to demonstrate to the building commissioner prior to obtain a building permit that he is not improving over 50% of the value of the structure, or the new addition or alterations is not more than 50% of the perimeter of the foundation or the structure itself.
Okay, so another thing that we had found out and discussed is that if they propose to do this in phases, then they get away from this one floor is not 50%, and then they come back another time and say, well, now we're going to do this other floor. Once they pass through you tonight, the only recourse is through the building department. And the building department doesn't have a structure like this where the abutters can talk about their concerns.
That may be true, but that's just the way the system's designed.
Okay, I'm just
I understand.
confirming.
Well, we have a lot of that stuff in mind.
Okay.
Bruce Brooks, 3 Bunnell Court owner. The one thing she didn't have, I had the conversation, and also she sent that email, and she sent me the state building codes, and if you read it, it says lateral. Any lateral addition does not fall under the 50% rule. It has to be at 21 feet, the 3 feet above the flood level. The property actually touches 18, and if it touches enough, then they'll make it go to 22. And that's to the first floor, okay? And that is a lateral that does not affect the 50% rule. The 50% rule can only affect what she's going vertical. And if we sent you the code and her opinion on that, or she mentioned that. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And then he also stated that the property south of the lane is closer to this. It is not. We had an engineer out there also, and it was a little over 15 feet. So just for clarity. Thank you.
I think the property line goes away from the structure, so it's definitely more, I'm not sure what the distance is, but
What he's saying is, yeah, between the 11.9 and the 12, the 11.9 was one corner, but it's tilted. But the neighbor itself is 15 point something. They actually have the numbers. It was over 15 feet from the engineering for the property south of the laneway, on the opposite side. He just said it was closer to it than what he's proposing, and it's not. Thank you.
Look, I can say this, I think I've heard enough. Okay. I think I've heard enough. And I'm just gonna express my opinion, and I'm only one person. So I have visited this site, and if there's ever a site that's unique, if there's ever a neighborhood that's unique, this is it. It's in essence a small community of neighbors within a larger community. I don't think I've ever denied a special permit before. But when I look at this, and I look how it's served, and even my fellow brother to the far right says, well, it's a driveway. Yeah, it's actually my driveway is much bigger than that thing. This is a very narrow driveway that serves several homes. I don't know the exact number, but I counted a few. I understand the petitioner, I understand what they're trying to do here, and I appreciate the fact that, you know, they went out, and I appreciate that they spent money in coming forward, they hired a professional, the man's made a good presentation for them, right? It's an engineer, he's done a very good presentation for them. But quite frankly, I don't feel comfortable in finding that this meets the standard of a special permit when you look at what this will do to that neighborhood, that very small neighborhood of undersized lots with significant homes on them. And we're not talking just a 10-foot addition. You know, we're talking a significant, it's more than 50% of the existing structure in square footage. So to say that that doesn't have an impact on the neighborhood, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't find that way. So that's just my feel on this. Obviously, there's two other gentlemen here who are gonna make a decision. I ask you if there's anything you'd like to say or what your concerns are, and if you think that, you know, I'm not actually placing my determination on this correctly, I'm willing to hear, right? I can be persuaded. Not that it's your job to do so. Mr. Human, you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. When this first came before the board, and I looked at it and said, oh, it's a special permit, and he's just putting a small addition on, I was in favor. After having seen the property and driven down there, I'm not in favor. It was like, I went down, drove down there with my wife. We live on Beechwood Drive, so it's like 3 miles from there. And it was like, we couldn't find Bono Court. I was looking for a road. And then I said, oh my God, there's the road sign. And I drove down there and I said, please, nobody come out, because there's no place to go. It's a tight area. And then when I looked at the piece of property down there, I thought to myself, why aren't they building up? Then we wouldn't even have to be here. And then when the information came in about the flood zone, that convinced me that this is not a proper addition to put on a piece of property down in that area. So I would vote against. I think it's more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Mr. Schuba?
Well, I think you're right. This is a special permit. It's not a variance. It's the standards are less stringent, and we've granted special permits before, and not until I drove. I mean, from the first meeting, I had a feeling that the addition is not in place, and I mentioned to the applicant if they can go back and be a little creative. I mean, being an engineer, I've done a lot of architectural plans and with tight spaces, and I think tweaking the plans a little bit, just maybe moving the bathroom to where the closet is, and, you know, cutting the depth of that room by 5-6 feet will give him the space that he needs, and you wouldn't have to deal with the special permit. And I always encourage people to be creative before they come to the board with variances, because we've seen people coming here sometimes for 2-foot or 3-foot setbacks, and where they can just make simple adjustment to the plans. But that's not, I mean, the size of the addition, being in a flood, those things, and on top of this, the setting of the like you said, I went down with my car. I said I had a hard time turning, and I have a small car, you know, so I can't picture the the impact during construction, trying to get a backhoe there or a machine or, definitely I can't say there'll be no impact or will be less detrimental. It's gonna be more detrimental. That's the key. And this is a special permit. I can't say, yeah, I can approve this as a special permit and again, to be fair, I looked at some of the houses there. They're big houses too, on those small lots, but they're there. I'm not gonna go up there and say, but not having the road being so narrow and with the curves, if it was a little bit more spread out, with different neighborhoods, we approved a 12-foot setback on the 20, and sometimes we give 8-foot setback on the 20.
Done it many times before.
So it's not unusual, but it is the special setting on that area, and again, like a special permit, like a variance, we look at case-by-case basis, and on this case, I don't think a special permit is warranted for this application, or it's not, definitely it's gonna be more detrimental to the neighborhood, so.
So, Mr. Fowler, if you could come up for a second. So it's always been the practice of this board, when the members have sort of vocalized that they wouldn't support the project, in order to ensure that the property doesn't necessarily carry a taint of a denial, that we've always given the person an opportunity to withdraw the application.
Without prejudice.
Without prejudice. So that if there was something else or some other means in which you wanted to come forward on, that it wouldn't necessarily be docketed, if you will, as being a denial for either a variance or a special permit. Now, we do this, and we've done, before I sat on this board, we've always extended
Sure.
that courtesy to applicants. And I want to extend that courtesy to your client as well.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we did continue the last meeting. I would like to continue this meeting in order for me to give time to my client to discuss maybe reducing the addition. I think that would be a valid, since we did give the board time to go out to the site.
Let me just say this, all right, and I'm not trying to shy away from this.
Sure.
And I'm only one person. If they want to grant, they put forth a motion, the other ones that
Sure.
put forth a motion. If they want to put forth a motion, we can absolutely do that. I'm of the mindset that almost any addition to this project, even one that is allowed as a matter of right just by applying to the building inspector that they can get, that your client can get,
Yeah.
I think that that's detrimental to the neighborhood, but that's outside my purview. That doesn't ever come before this
Sure.
board. That's just my personal opinion. This is so unique of a neighborhood. I'm sure you've been there. And anything done there, even if these people, and I've made it known, right, in dicta, so to speak, that's how
Sure.
judges, in dicta, I've made it known that we've set precedent here today, possibly, that even though there may not be a denial, but the fact that we didn't act upon it, maybe you withdraw or you continue and withdraw at another date, that there's dicta here that if they come before us for something else, it's likely we're not going to grant it to them as well, even if they have letters in support by their neighbors, possibly. Again, this is only me, this is dicta, let's call it that for whatever it's
Sure.
worth. And
And that's another reason why I would ask for a continuance, because the applicant may want you to vote on this and deny it. That might be something that they could appeal, or maybe they want to set precedents in the neighborhood themselves, if that's what
respect
they
that.
want.
so, gentlemen, either way, are we willing to entertain a continuance on the case so that he can discuss it with his client, and they can decide whether or not they want to come before us, and that either we make an actual vote, take an actual vote, or we allow them to withdraw it without prejudice? Is that pretty much your understanding?
Yes.
All right. All right. What do you think you're going to add to this? Come on up. Don't tell me you've been here many times and you come from a different area and all that, right? Is that what you're going to tell me?
I'm not.
Okay. All right, tell me.
Just to complete the thought, the applicant could have attended today. There are many meetings that we've been here for. The applicant could easily have attended today. So I would just ask you to take that into consideration.
All right, thank you. So, gentlemen, share your thoughts with me.
My thought is, Mr. Farland comes before us regularly, and as a courtesy, I would have no problem extending, giving him a continuance to determine whether we're going to issue a written denial or whether we're going to let him withdraw.
Mr. Chuba?
I think, and this is not gonna make a difference, so you already made it clear there will be no expansion into the setback lines, not even 1 foot. So I don't see why, I mean, if he comes back
But
with,
but the only reason is if he may want us to actually vote on it, so that maybe they could appeal it.
oh, okay,
So
if this is the case, then, yeah.
I always want to
that's
make sure
fine.
they're allowed to preserve their rights.
Okay.
And I did hear the other abutter who indicated that,
Okay.
she could have been here, but they have a representative here who's here on their behalf.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen.
What do we,
Motion to continue. is that
Allow
what
a
you think?
continuance. We should pick a date. What do we got for availability?
Mr. Chairman, may I,
Yes, certainly.
through you, before you take the vote on that, I'd just like, I'm an old man, and my memory's not that great, but I remember this case came before this board, and nobody showed up for the petitioner. And our board decided as a convenience, there were other people here, everybody was here except the petitioner. And I voiced my opinion saying that people have telephones, they have cell phones. Somebody could have called this board, and we could have called the abutters to tell them that they weren't going to show up. This board took the action to not continue the case, which you're going to do, and say, all right, you're right. They should have called, they didn't show up. But I also would like to say that, in all deference to Mr. Filan, he's a great engineer. This is the second engineer they've had. This isn't the first meeting, isn't the second meeting, but what really bothers me about this case, I'd like to echo what the board said, the uniqueness of the residential area, but it really bothers me that this petitioner filed the petition before this board and has never been to one meeting. And I haven't been to a meeting on this board. I know I'm a new member, but people show up to answer questions. Like the question we just asked Mr. Filan, what does your client want to do? He said it's not his fault. Well, let's continue the case so I can talk to her. Well, why isn't she here tonight so we could talk to her and we could make a decision here that helps everybody in the neighborhood, not just the petitioner, to come back again? I think that the way this petition is handled, this not coming here, it's not right. It really isn't right. If I filed a petition to the board, and I know she's hired good engineers, and I respect that, but I think that somebody that files for this board and wants us to give relief should be here to answer some of the questions like I would have. Is this a Airbnb? Is the woman living there? There's questions that I've heard that I'd like answers to, but nobody seems to know that because she's not here. And I would like to point that out to the board. I would like to give Mr. Fowler a chance to talk to the client, come back, but I just don't think it's right in this set of circumstances. It's not right to this board to be here, and Mr. Chairman, you've said a few times, we don't make any money coming here. Actually, this is the second meeting this week. So we're here for nothing, and yet the petitioner who wants us to continue the case to help her, give her relief, is not even here. It's just not right. And in deference to Mr. Fowler, I don't want to hurt his case, and I don't want him to come back, but that's really not what we should be concerned about.
Well, I thank you for that, Attorney Farrier, but the only thing is that there is no legal requirement that the petitioner needs to be
I
here.
know that, but how many cases have
If you
we
didn't
had?
impose that, it just seems a little bit, I find it, and I respect your position. And I, we've known each other for a long time, and I do respect your opinion on this. But it's just that I don't want to set a situation where, for the first time ever, we're not necessarily extending the courtesy to a petitioner. And I'm not here to argue for Mr. Fowler. He's a very good advocate for his client, is that he wasn't the initial applicant. He didn't represent the applicant initially when they came before us. And we did vote. At that point, I wanted to grant a continuance just to give him more time. And I believe you kind of made a statement that kind of, I think, made me change my mind, so to speak. So to that extent, yeah, I listened, but I knew they were going to come back, and I did state that publicly. They're probably going to come back, and they did come back, and that's why we're here today. But nonetheless, I thank you for your opinion on that, but I would just feel, myself, I would feel more comfortable if we gave him the opportunity. That's just me, and I think the other members have sort of shared the same sentiment. So at this point, if we could just pick a date? What do we got for dates? It can be out for a while because it'll give him plenty of time to speak to his client, decide what they want to do. It's going to be mid to late July at this point.
We have the 9th.
What else we have? We have a 40B on the 9th, right? What's, that's Sherbrooke? That's at 6. What do we have on at 5?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right, so we'll put it on for July 9th, enough time? Yep. All right, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion.
5 PM?
Yes.
I make a motion that we continue special permit ZSP.
Hold on one second. Mr. Fallon, one sec. I just need to make sure if there's an extension that needs to be filed, because this has been hanging around a bit. Obviously, this approval is on the condition that you're going to sign an extension, because you may be out of the timeframe. I mean, the continue, what did I say, the what?
Approval.
The approval, excuse me, that this continuance, that our approval of a continuance will be on the condition that you do sign an extension. Okay, great.
I make a motion that we continue special permit ZSP 5-5-6 to July 9th, 2026 at 5 PM, with the understanding that the petitioner will sign an extension on the time limitation.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you.
I had forgotten that this came in here and then disappeared
Yeah.
and then was brought back.
All right, so, folks, we're still in session. Gentlemen, we're still in session. Moving on to the next matter on tonight's meeting and list. Variance ZAV 26-1, petitioner applicant Joseph DePina, owners Joseph and Linda DePina. The subject property is located at 26 West Bliss Street, map 138, lot 228. It's located in a general residence district, and the matter was legally advertised on May 21st and May 28th of 2026.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. If anyone wants to see the abutters list, it's available at the Zoning Board of Appeals office here on the second floor. The petitioner in this case is seeking a use variance to create a condo conversion of 2 pre-existing dwellings. The primary residence was built in 1967, and the second dwelling, a 2-car garage with accessory apartment, was built in 1991 with a variance 1989-72. The 2-car garage with accessory apartment above was then expanded in 1998 with a variance 1998-13. Parking facilities shall meet the following minimum setbacks: 40 feet from street. Condos are not allowed use. This application is being denied under the following sections of the Dartmouth zoning bylaw: 375-43.3 use variances, amended 6-2324 ATM by Article 40, approved 9/10/2024. The property is located at 26 West Bliss Street in a general residence district and identified as Assessors Map 138-228. All right, so I must have a letter, denial letter from the building inspector. All right. This letter was addressed to Mr. Joseph DePina. It was dated April 8th of 2026. I have reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to noncompliance with current zoning regulations. The applicant proposing to create a condo conversion of 2 pre-existing dwellings. The primary residence was built in 1967, and the second dwelling, a 2-car garage with accessory apartment, was built in 1991. The 2-car garage with accessory apartment above was then expanded in 1998 with a variance. Condos are not an allowed use per 375-10.2 allowed uses. A use variance is required. And it goes on to state that you need relief on the 375-43.3. All right, that's that. And we also have some notes from town agencies. One of them's from the Board of Health. It says that the property's on town water and sewer. That's all they have to indicate, and they say that separate connections. There's a separate sewer and water connections were performed when second dwelling was constructed back in 1991, so there might have been some foresight. And also the usual and ordinary DPW regulations, which I'm not going to read into the record. the standard regulations that we see on every application. All right, so at this time, this is a public meeting. At this time, I'm going to call upon the petitioner or their representative to come forward and state their case.
Thank you, Chairperson. I pretty much described it in my application. Granting this a use variance would give me the opportunity to separate the ownership of the two dwellings while maintaining ownership of the entire property, which my family's owned since the mid-'60s, like you stated. I'm a retired senior. I lived in the town my entire life. My mother, who lived at 26, passed away in December of last year, just before her 96th birthday. Her home is currently occupied. That's 26 is the house in the front, the primary residence that did not require any kind of variance. The house is currently occupied by my niece, which is my sister's daughter, and her husband and her two children. They've expressed interest that they want to purchase the home. The house has been meticulously maintained for years, but it's very much outdated. It's got a 1960s kitchen. One of the bathrooms was redone to make it easier for my mother to have access to it based on her age, but there's a second bathroom that needs to be remodeled. It's an old home. The oil tank had to be replaced. The roof needs to be replaced. And there's things that need to be done, obviously, to maintain the property. And improvements that my niece, who has desire to live in the home, she wants to do improvements of her own. She wants her kitchen a certain way. She wants out colors of the bathroom, a tile or whatever. And it would give her the opportunity to be able to do that. As you know, the property values throughout Massachusetts and even in the town have skyrocketed over the last few years. And without me being able to separate ownership of the dwelling, at some point I would be forced to sell the entire property, a property that we've owned for a number of years and I would like to keep in my family. I know that it's called a use variance. I understand why, because it's a residential area. But the use of the property is not going to change. I'm still going to live at 28 with my wife. My granddaughter is living with us now. We have the cars that we drive. We have where we keep them on the property. We have a separate driveway. My niece, who's lived at 26, she has two children. She doesn't plan on putting any additions or expansions of the house. She just wants to update the interior of the house. So even though it's called a use variance, if this is granted, nothing's going to change within the neighborhood. It's just the responsibility of the property will change. They will be responsible for the home and the surrounding yard and their driveway in terms of maintenance. And I would be responsible for my portion of the property as well. And then the rest of what would transpire would legalities would have to go to an attorney to set up a condo association and set out whatever rules would be established through that. I've had conversations with my niece, and the only thing we're looking to do is separate the property taxes, and put in language that they're responsible for each other's property and spell that out in legal language, and that's pretty much. And the only other thing is right of first refusal. If either one of us wants to sell the condo, I want to keep the property in the family, and I think doing that will ensure that that would happen. I've talked to my niece about this. This is her, you hear it on the home improvement shows all the time, that this is her life property. This is her one and only property. She doesn't plan on relocating. I may have to relocate at one time, as described my property. All the living space is on the second level. My bedroom is in a loft on the third level. My wife tells me every day, I have 13 stairs I have to go up and down to bring groceries, to do the laundry. The bathroom is on the second floor. So, we're in bed in the loft, we have to go up and down the stairs in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. So, if anyone's going to leave the property, it would probably be me. And my granddaughter's living there now. My grandson would be interested in moving in. And it's a situation we want to keep the property within the family. And this would allow us to do that. At one time, I wanted to subdivide the property. After speaking to someone in the building department, I found out that really wasn't feasible. The frontage would not meet the requirements. Even if that's one hurdle. The lot size as currently, how I currently had it drawn out would be too small. And then we'd have to widen the driveway in order to make that a lane to give frontage to the rear property, which would create a setback issue. So it was too many hurdles to jump through to try to go through a process that was probably not going to be successful. So it was suggested to me that I try to do the condo route and come before the board and see if that would be granted.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you have any questions of Mr. DePina?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chair.
I don't have any questions.
I have a statement.
Me too. Gentlemen, any questions?
I have none.
All right. Do you want to make that statement now, or you want me to see if I can get the public, if there's anyone in the public who wants to be heard? You want to hear from the public first?
I don't think.
All right, so, Mr. DePina, as you well know, this is a public hearing, and we always give everyone an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition. So if
Yeah.
there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this petition, kindly come forward, state your name, and explain to us what your concerns are. All right. Well, I can express to the viewers at home that there's no one in the audience that's raised their hand or has come forward to speak either in favor or in opposition. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn to Mr. Schuba. I think he wants to make a statement on this.
Yeah, so it is a use variance, and Mr. Pina is correct, there's no change, and also, I would like to add, he's in the general residence district, and according to our bylaws, by right, you can have two family residents in a single, if they touch within the same building. So even with our bylaws, if the lot is over 20,000 square feet, you are allowed to have two family residents. And, the two dwellings that are on, they're both legally in existence. One was created by right, and the other one was by variance by this board a long time ago. And it's just a matter of more like administrative cleaning up. And I looked, this is a unique situation where I don't believe we have two dwellings on a lot. And since I've been on this board for almost 20 years, this is the first time that this came up, and I was looking to see how, we can come up with and I think it's pretty straightforward once we look at the findings.
I don't know if this had come before us for that second structure now, if we were granted something like that, other than qualifying as an ADU. I don't think we would have
I was concerned about that.
And I see it as, and that's what I'm concerned too.
Not to set a precedent,
There you
but I
go.
checked an ADU, according to our bylaws, you cannot create condos with the ADU. So that was my.
So, because I'm worried of people circumventing.
Right.
And starting to use this as a new
That's
precedent
exactly
to
what
start
I thought,
establishing.
right.
So you're saying that you cannot create a condo if it's an ADU?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, this was done a long time ago. Lucky for you. Okay. Any other comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
Mr. Rodriguez, any comments? Attorney Faria?
I have none.
Doctor? None. All right. So, I think we have some proposed findings on this. We keep the public meeting open in case we have to ask you any questions, because once we close the public meeting, then we cannot take any information from you.
Okay.
So we'll keep it open. I ask you just to hang on standby, just in case we have another question to ask, or if we misstate something, I need you to come forward and let us know. But Michelle just stepped away.
And again, Mr. Chair, before we start with your concerns, if they come in front of this board with an ADU to create a condo. This is an pre-existing that was created by a variance, so, yeah. So I thought of the same thing. I don't want to set a precedent, but I don't think we're setting a precedent.
Well, I think this is somewhat unique, to be honest.
It is unique. We're good, I think. We're good. That's,
Very good.
the other board members if you want.
Gentlemen, these are just some proposed findings. These are basically just a working template.
Thank you.
All right, so gentlemen, as usual, anytime you want to interject, have me stop. We can go over if there's anything that's misstated. So the findings, as proposed findings, the subject property is located at 26 West Bliss Street, Dartmouth, and is also known as map 138, lot 228 on Town of Dartmouth Assessors Map. 2, the property is located in the general residence district and measures 43,675 square feet, where 15,000 square feet is required for a single-family residence and 20,000 square feet for a two-family residence. The property has been owned by Joseph DePina since
I say probably in the 60s. I didn't have the year.
well, not him, I think it was by his mom and dad back in the 60s, right?
Correct, my dad,
Well,
my mom and
she'll
dad,
fill it
correct.
in.
So,
Michelle will fill
do you
it
know
in.
how long you've owned it? Have you only owned it since your mother's passing?
No, I've owned it, for estate planning purposes. God, I've owned it since,
Well, how about I just say this? It's been owned by the DePina family since 1967.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Since 1967. Two-family residence. A two-family residence is allowed in the general residence district if the lot area is greater than 20,000 square feet and the two dwelling units are contained within the same building footprint.
Yeah.
Okay? Currently, there are 2 detached residential dwellings on the property. Both dwellings are legally in existence. The original dwelling, 26 West Bliss Street, at the front of the property was constructed in 1967, and the second dwelling, 28 West Bliss Street, over the garage at the rear of the property, was built in 1991 by a variance from the Dartmouth Zoning Board of Appeals in 1989, case number 1989-72, and expanded in 1998 per variance case 1998-13. Both dwellings on the property are in compliance with the Dartmouth zoning bylaw setback requirements. Both dwellings on the property are serviced by town water and town sewer connections.
Separate. huh?
Excuse me, by separate town water and sewer connections. The petitioner, Joseph DePina, is seeking a use variance per Article 375-43.3. Use variance is to create a condominium conversion of the 2 existing dwellings on the property. Condominiums are not allowed uses in the general residence district per Section 375-10.2. There will be no changes to the appearance or use of the existing dwellings on the property or their relation to abutting parcels. There will be no increase to the density or additional strain placed on existing town utilities and services within the condominium conversion, with the condominium conversion. The board finds that a condominium conversion of the 2-family existing dwellings is not more detrimental to the neighborhood and would be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. The requested variance meets the statutory requirements for granting a variance pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 10. So here's the 4-pronged test that we need to satisfy. There are circumstances related to soil, shape, and topography that especially affect the subject property that do not generally affect the zoning district in which the structure or land is located. Currently, there are 2 detached residential dwellings on the property. Both dwellings are legally in existence. The original dwelling, 26 West Bliss Street, at the front of the property was constructed, that's not the, yes, 26, excuse me. The original dwelling, 26 West Bliss Street, at the front of the property was constructed in 1967. The second dwelling, 28 West Bliss Street, over the garage at the rear of the property, was built in 1991 by a variance, expanded by the other variance. The presence of the 2 existing residential structures on this parcel is a unique circumstance, as it is the only parcel within the zoning district with 2 existing detached dwellings. The property has a rectangular shape with a 4-to-1 depth to width ratio. The two detached dwellings and their location in relation to the lot shape creates a unique situation within this zoning district. I like it. 2, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. The literal enforcement of the provision would be a substantial hardship to the owner, given the current status of the property. The owner is having difficulties with financing, refinancing, and insuring the property. Typically, that can happen as well, but I think one of the things is in an attempt to keep the property still within the family, correct?
Correct.
All right, I'll put something like to that effect. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
This really doesn't satisfy a legal standard, but it's just a further explanation. It says, as the petitioner seeks to keep the property ownership within the family, okay?
Correct.
3, desirable relief may be granted without detriment to the public good. The property is located in the general residence district and contains 2 lawfully existing dwellings. The granting of the relief will not be detrimental to the neighborhood or the public good. And then 4, the variance will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. The property is located in a general residence district and contains 2 lawfully existing dwellings. Granting the variance will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. All right, so that is the legal standard that we need to meet, and we believe that we have rationale that supports that, in addition to the findings, okay? So, given that, I've seen some more people come in. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to the petition for 26 West Bliss Street in South Dartmouth? I can report that there's no one here that's raised their hand or come forward. Given that, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing on 26 West Bliss Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Me? I make a motion that we approve the variance request for 26 West Bliss Street with the stated findings and the stated conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Congratulations and good luck, sir.
Appreciate your time. I know you got bigger issues than this to take care of, and I appreciate your time. Thank
They're all
you.
important, though. Thank you. All right, so we're going to take just a quick recess, gentlemen. The board stands in recess. The zoning board's back in session. Moving on to the next matter that's on tonight's agenda. It's comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-3. The petitioner is Philip Cordero on behalf of the Hathaway Dartmouth LLC. The property is located in a single residence A district. It's previously been legally advertised on December 18th to December 25th of 2025. We've waived the reading of the abutters list. The petitioner is seeking a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, Sections 20-23, the comprehensive permit guidelines from the Massachusetts General Laws and Dartmouth zoning bylaw regulations. Petitioner is proposing a development on approximately 113 acres to be known as the Hathaway, to be located at 0 Hathaway Road in the single residence A district. The development will have a total of 300 residential units. Dr. Agai, who's a member of our board, has consistently recused himself at each of the hearings, and it is asked that I announce again that he's recusing himself at tonight's hearing. Now, so for the people here in the audience and the viewers at home, there are a lot of moving parts to one of these. There are a lot of moving parts to one of these applications, and I think a lot has transpired between town agencies such as DPW, and some of the experts that they've hired in order to present, we call them consultants, and also some of our peer review consultants. So I think it'd probably be most prudent tonight that I start with our legal counsel, who's probably been privy to a lot of either the direct communications, and if not, at least she's informed of what's transpired, and she can give us sort of an overview of what's gone on since the last time we were all here. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Floor is yours.
Sure. And I'm going to reference that there's been submissions by the applicant, but I'm, of course, going to defer to them to present those submissions to the board. So I did just because so much has happened since May 21st, which is the last hearing, I did prepare for the board, and I provided a copy to the applicant, just a timeline, which I think you should have there. And I tried to break it down by subject matter just to try to group it, because a lot happened. The board had asked that I submit a letter to Mass Housing with the concerns regarding the recommendations from Mass Housing. So I did submit that letter on June 3rd. A response was received from Mass Housing on June 8th, in which, they kind of restated that, those recommendations are not conditions, which we were aware of, but that they would speak with the applicant about the concerns. So I presume that those conversations happened. I don't know. I was not a part of, privy to any of those conversations. The town administrator did share that a resident had reached out, or multiple residents had reached out to Senator Montigny, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and his office prepared a letter to Mass Housing, which mirrored the similar concerns that the letter I had written had to Mass Housing. So I do not know if their office got a response. The town administrator was just copied on the letter from the senator's office. Then related to this, Allen and Major, who's the applicant's civil engineers, did submit a letter on Tuesday in which they took the planning board. So the planning board had submitted comments to Mass Housing before the project eligibility letter was issued. And they've submitted a chart in which they go through all of the comments from the planning board and how they feel they have responded to them. Again, a lot just came in from Tuesday and yesterday that, everyone, the staff, myself, have not been able to get through all of this in detail in the last. I think that letter came in near the end of the day on Tuesday. On the building height, there is a letter that came in also 2 days ago from applicant's counsel, and that covers both traffic and building height. With respect to building height, I'm going to let them present it. It does include some new elevations for some of the buildings. I'll let them present that. On traffic, there have been some back and forth letters. Howard Stein Hudson, and then Ben Ask, who is here on behalf of the applicant, responded to that, also 521. And then there were more recent that just came in. I think I failed to list it on here, that just came in this week, again from Howard Stein Hudson. In addition, the June 9th letter that came in from council did include a proposal on mitigation donation to the town, so I'll let them present that as well. On Tuesday, we also did just get an updated waivers list. It was a brand-new chart without any redlining, so we have not had time to necessarily put them side by side and try to figure out every change that was made. It looks like there were only additions, no subtractions, but we don't even know if the language of any of the existing waivers have changed. I'll note, too, if the board gets to the conversation of waivers today, that it was discovered by some of the planning staff that in addition to the waiver list, there's a whole chart embedded in the plans for the landscaping, which appears to be waivers from almost all of the town's landscaping requirements, but they're not on the waiver list. They're embedded in the plans, so those have to get addressed. They should have been combined for ease of the board's review, but they were not. And then just yesterday, an A&R plan was received, which proposes to divide the property into 3 lots. That just came in yesterday, has not been reviewed by anyone. And then the second page is all wastewater and peer review issues. So So I don't think it's worth rehashing the who said what when. Obviously, we're going to have to agree to disagree on the timing of all the conversations and the discussion of the need to have Stantec involved. You know, and then there was concerns raised about peer review fees. Some peer review fees were received tonight. They did not meet the amount that the town has requested to cover, the staff has requested on behalf of the board in order to cover the fact that there's a deficit right now for civil and traffic, and there had been no funds to date, but there is a check today. It's just not the full amount that had been requested. With respect to the peer review, nothing started yet because there were no funds before this check showed up tonight. But I know that based on this timeline and speaking to Mr. Barber, that he has initiated conversations both with Mr. Cordero from Allen and Major and Mr. Calhoun to try to get that going, but it hasn't been started yet. So anyway, a lot in a short amount of time, but I was trying to make sense of it all this morning. So I started mapping out the timeline. I thought it might be helpful to the board, so I put this together.
Well, thank you for that.
So anyway, that's what's happened since May 21st.
Right. So I guess at this time, we'll call upon the petitioner to bring us up to date as to where they're at with this. And I think we're going to want to speak to their traffic consultant as well.
David Calhoun, Saxon Partners, the applicant. Clarification, Phil Cordero is not the applicant. I've mentioned that a couple times, but he's our civil engineer. We corrected that at the first hearing. But I'd
Wait,
like
hold
to,
on. Who is the applicant?
Saxon Partners / the Hathaway, the LLC.
All right, so we'll have to-
Phil is a civil engineer.
How
It
could
was,
that have happened? When they entered it in the portal? It came out in the portal that way, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just he's
just-
the one who physically submitted the application on behalf.
comes up.
So it came,
Just on there, we know that he's not.
right. For decision purposes, it'll be listed as,
We'll have to make sure we.
yeah, it will be.
But that should be reflected.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yep, our attorney's here, and he's going to walk you through the June 9th letter, because Mark Donahue and Matt Eckel felt it would be beneficial for us to prepare a status of where we think everything is, explain things, and a couple of the major things we'll looked at, traffic, the mitigation, resolution. One of the big things that the chair has made very clear that you want us to look at the height, and I know it came in relatively late, but it's just a concept. We're not changing our submission unless you guys opt to go to it, but we're going to walk you through it. And that we took a floor off a portion of the building closest to Eisenhower. We're maintaining our unit count, but we'll go through all that in detail. But the more important thing I'd like to clarify is there's been some misrepresentations as to our peer review fund. Our 53G account does have money in it. So far, you have awarded 2 contracts. You awarded one to Merrill Engineering, and off the top of my head, hang on one sec.
HSH.
Off the top of my head, I don't have the exact amount. I believe it's her contract was for $16,000. And her contract is broken down into meetings and then peer review. In her peer review scope of work, there's a chunk of it that's dedicated to water, sewer, and peer review on site. In addition, you also issued a contract to Howard Stein Hudson, and again, I'm going off the top of my head, in the amount of $8,400. The peer review portion of their study was roughly $6,000. And then meetings for 2 meetings was $2,400 or $2,200. You have incurred at least, and I made 3 phone calls in the last few days trying to reach them to clarify it. We got a bill the other day, I believe it was Tuesday, that shows that you spent $18,700 and some odd dollars with Howard Stein Hudson alone. How that happened, I don't know. They had a contract. I've received a few responses. What I'd prefer to do is to get with Howard Stein Hudson, review their bill, make sure that they're not billing for another project. It's pretty easy to bill for the Hawthorne when you got the Hathaway, and figure out what that amount is, because this board only awarded a contract for $8,400. And to have it be at $18,700, anybody would say, hold on. We were asked to put $15,000 into our 53G account via email. We brought with us tonight $20,000, and we've given that to Michelle. We've just been told by Susan that she wants 15 and 15, and the 15 is for Mr. Barber. And we did talk to Tim last week, and then again the other day, in that they were trying to get to resolution on a peer review study that they were looking to do. But based on the meeting of the DPW the other evening, they directed and they engaged Stan Tech to do a peer review, not this board. So they're spending money. I'm not sure how it comes out of a ZBA 53G account when they're engaging somebody to do a different service. And before this meeting got going, I offered to Susan that I'd like to take it offline and not discuss this in public, because there appears to be some things that are messed up. That was declined, but I don't think it's responsible to sit there and say that a very, very reputable company, that their account is not fully funded, and that's delaying review. As you know, when we first came, that was the first thing we did. We threw 25 grand in a peer review account to avoid any such problems like this. And we have been diligent in reaching out to the town every month to say, hey, where's our account, Stan? What bills have you paid? And towards the end, that has gotten pretty good. We'll get a notice before something gets spent. But we had no indication as to what was going on with Howard Stein Hudson. I believe it could be an error. We'd like to deal with that offline, independent of the ZBA. And with that, I'd like Matt to take over and give you a status.
But before we go there, obviously, you're going to explain to me a little bit about
Yeah.
our side of what's
Yeah.
transpired here.
Sure.
I thought we had a conversation early on that we were going to designate someone else to make this determination, people within the town, maybe even the town administrator.
Yes.
To engage these
Yeah,
individuals.
and that's,
But
and.
that's
that-
just my recollection.
Right, and
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mr. Barber and DPW has not engaged anyone. The town administrator signs all of the engagement letters, but the water and sewer is under the DPW department. So when it comes to reviewing anything on any project that comes before this board or the planning board related to water and sewer, the DPW director is involved. So they didn't engage Stan Tech for review of this project. The town administrator signs all of those proposals on behalf of the board. And with respect to other work happening, there's always other work happening with the water and sewer departments. There is always other contracts going on. There's reports being issued. In fact, there's a report that Mr. Barber has uploaded just so that it's in the record as to capacity issues. And that was funded separately by the, committee, DPW committee. It's not directly related to this project. It relates to all projects in the town, but it's information that's relative to the impacts of all projects.
Overall impact.
Overall impact. And that was not being sought to be funded by any money of this applicant. That was paid entirely by the town. So that is not accurate. Number two.
Susan, but I am
Yep.
concerned, right? The last thing and we had a similar problem with one of the
Yeah.
first 40Bs of last year.
Yeah.
In that we're not gonna be caught holding the bag.
Right,
So
exactly.
I had-
So,
I don't want to use the word threatened, but I had expressed clearly to that applicant that if we weren't being paid, if the money was not in there to cover not only what was incurred, but also for future expense, that we had an estimate, a good estimate as to what that would be, that we wouldn't be moving forward, because I didn't want there to be a situation in which that would happen, in which the
Right.
town would have a bill outstanding not being paid for by
right,
the
and
applicant.
under 40B, the town is not required to, the board is not required to move forward with a 40B if peer review funds are not paid. With respect to Howard Stein Hudson, and also with Merrill, both of their contracts are crystal clear that those were estimates. It says right in there that they're estimates. They were based on assumptions of how many review letters they needed to write, how many meetings they needed to attend. And Howard Stein Hudson has had to respond to more than the number they estimated. And both, if you may recall, there was a plan at the second hearing, say, okay, this is what's going to be discussed. But the applicant has decided at each hearing that they're going to talk about any topics they want to talk about, and it was leaving the board without your experts here. So the board was in a position that if you didn't have your consultants here, the applicant would have their experts talking about topics, and you'd have no expert here. So it was at the point where both of your experts were coming to the hearings, because otherwise the board would be left without your consultant or your peer review expert to respond. So that resulted in Mr. Finley having to come to more meetings than he might have if the applicant had been willing to stick to, we're talking about this on this day, that on that day, which is what the board has done with the other 40Bs. Determined this is the only people who are coming, this is the only topic of conversation. But that's not how the flow of this hearing has gone. And both of those are estimates, and there is no ability Howard Stein Hudson is only working on this 40B, no other 40B or other project in Dartmouth, so he's not accidentally billing for any other project.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Just a couple quick questions. The position that my mismanagement, my request for professionals to be here was wrong. Your consultant and your attorney is stating, that the reason why this ran over was because of meetings. Steve Feldman, I believe, is here. This is his third time here. Am I correct, Steve?
Well, whatever it is.
But it's not the meetings that blew it up.
You're
It's
the
not-
one that's asking for the relief. You're asking for the relief. This is a big boy's game.
I'm not asking for relief.
Of course you are.
No, I'm not.
So a comprehensive permit's not a form of relief? A comprehensive permit's not a form of relief?
It is.
Okay.
It is because we achieve an affordable requirement.
All right, so you're asking
All
for
I'm
relief.
saying, sir, is our recommendation was that this discussion happen with the proper people,
All right, so
not here.
you can still do that. That's
We can
fine.
still do that, and the only thing that we ask is we just put another 20 grand in our account, more than is needed right
Well,
now.
I don't know. Well, you say it's more than it's needed. I'm not convinced it's more than
You
what's
haven't
needed.
issued any other contracts, nor has the town administrator. The contract that you're talking about with Stantec was discussed, voted, and approved under the line item of 40B Stantec on the June 4th hearing of the DPW. They discussed it. They said what they wanted to do. They wanted a capacity, both for sewer and water, to be done. We already have a will serve letter. We already have analysis of the water flows that was prepared for one of the other applicants, that there was sufficient water for us. We're not trying to scapegoat anything, but because the DPW wants to do a study, and the exact reason why they want to do the study is to see if they can create a moratorium to prevent projects like ours. They're spending the money, not us. We're not going to fund a study to stop us.
Well, I understand that.
But
the thing is
that's
this,
not accurate.
We'll have Mr. Barber come up, and he can explain a little bit more on that. But I do agree, you could handle that offline to determine what the cost is and when you're, but the only thing is, I am really concerned that there are going to be payment for this. So let me ask you.
There's
Hold
20
on.
grand right there, right
Yeah,
now.
but that's not enough. From
It's
what
more
I'm
than enough.
understanding, it's not enough for what the outstanding bills are. Is that enough to pay what's outstanding?
For the
at this
outstanding
point?
bills, yes.
Okay, for the outstanding bills. But for future billing, it's not.
Yes, it is, right now.
Not based on the estimates, particularly with respect to
Okay.
water and
So,
wastewater.
hold on. Let me ask you this. As a condition, before we were to grant anything, if the board were to grant this, as a condition, we can make it so that all payments have to be made for all the peer review consultants prior to the issuance of the permit, correct?
Yeah, and 40B regulations provide that if sufficient funds are not deposited, that you can deny the permit outright.
Mr.
So
Chair,
that's an option as well.
if it's solved,
Basically, you act at your peril of whether or not you pay the bill or not.
we paid the bill.
All right, well, you paid the one that's been submitted up to this point. Maybe there are
Well,
other
there
bills
has
that need
been
to
no
come
new
forward.
bills. You would have to vote and decide to engage another subcontractor to perform more services.
Miss-
You haven't brought on another contractor. You haven't hired anyone else. The DPW did.
Okay, well, again. you
Mr.
said you-
Chair, I can go back and review the original meetings, but Stantec has been discussed since meeting 1. Myself and Mr. Barber stood right there and spoke to Mr. Calhoun about Stantec's engagement right after the first hearing. So, you know, I will confirm, but you know what? I would ask the board right now to ratify the fact that Stantec, you know, was to be engaged or was intended to be engaged, and I would ask the board to take that vote right now and ratify that understanding.
All right, I'd just like rather hear from Mr. Tim
Yep.
Barber before we do that.
Sure.
But keep that in mind before
Yes.
we
Yep.
adjourn tonight, okay?
Yep.
All right, so I think the attorney, Mr. Barber wants to come up. I'll take care of it now. So explain to me this distinction of what you guys, who you've engaged Stanton to do. Stantec, is it? Stantec.
Stantec, yes.
Okay.
Tim Barber, Department of Public Works Director. So based on a number of developments being proposed in town, 40Bs and non-40Bs, the Board of Public Works has requested that a flowing loading study be done with all the cumulative data. So this is funded through the Sewer Enterprise Fund. This is not funded by any of the applicants. The applicants fund the peer reviews of their on-site and direct impact of off-site. But
They prepared a report for you?
they have.
Is that how you derived that memorandum on another case that you presented to us on Monday night? Was it based on some of that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. That's-
Absolutely.
And that's not coming from this petitioner's funds?
No.
All right.
No.
So,
No, that was funded solely through the Sewer Enterprise Fund.
right.
And it was requested by the board members for a cumulative impact study, so, and flow and loading study of existing and future flows.
And so Stantec has not been engaged by you to do anything as far as independent review of this project? And when I say you, the DPW board?
Yeah, so we have discussed this project. They have submitted a number of scopes and fees, and we worked with them. The initial cost was pretty high, so we worked with them a number of times to reduce the fee and cost for this project.
Has that been sent over to the petitioner?
Yes.
Certain of
On
that,
May
yeah.
21st.
On May 21st was sent over to them. And did they respond to you about any of those bills those estimates that was sent over?
Not directly.
They responded to me.
yeah.
I received, well, the board received a letter from the applicant's counsel, which I was copied on. It's probably in your pile. There's a lot that's come in. It's one of those letters that I have in the timeline. And initially, their counsel said that they were rejecting the proposal. And
Oh,
I.
that's the letter, okay.
And I responded and said, under Chapter 40B regulations, you do not have the ability to reject a peer reviewer unless they are not competent to do the job, which is not the case for this peer reviewer, and failure to pay the peer review funds may result in a denial of the permit. And that was the exchange, the extent of the exchange on that.
That was back in May, late May.
Well, that was, May 21st is when they got it. I believe it was the beginning of June, maybe a week or so ago, that the letter came in.
Look, I do know that, Stantec doesn't seem to be the least expensive of the peer reviewers for this area. And I just seen that, the DPW seems to enjoy engaging or the town seems to find that Stantec is probably, I don't know if they're the best, but if they're the best, then they ought to justify it some way, somehow. Because it's not just them, it's been everyone along the way, and there are other people who I know of who are seeking this, and they're complaining about what that price may be.
Correct. So
So-
I can say that we have a history with Stantec and formerly
That's all well and
Faith
good.
Spofford and Thorndike. So as Faith Spofford and Thorndike, they designed our wastewater treatment facility, and I'd say about 75% of all of the sewer infrastructure that's been constructed in the town. So, and then, they were bought out by Stantec and kept the same staff and continued to work for the town for many of the sewer projects. So they have a lot of the data and history of our wastewater treatment
But the thing is,
facility.
there's no incentive to be reasonable in pricing. I just ask you to keep that in mind. And I'm not saying you're the power that be to make that decision, but whoever it is,
absolutely.
you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and the town administrator's been involved in those, I have not been involved, but the town administrator's been involved in those conversations with Mr. Barber and Stantec, and as he stated, the proposal that came in for this 40B was a significantly lower price than on the two prior 40Bs. And again, those were just estimates, and the actual amounts that were billed by Stantec for those two projects were significantly less than what was in their estimate. So again, they're estimates. They might be lower, they may be higher, but the town has been actively working on that.
And as Attorney Margaret has stated that we have had discussions with the applicant and his engineer, and they have agreed to fund a portion to move forward with the work, verbally. We had requested and discussed that $20,000 would get us going on this for both the water and the sewer.
Did not include the civil and the traffic, so.
That's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We don't want to be the dead horse.
You need a
Mr.
vote,
Conlon, right?
but don't.
Our goal
I would
is not to-
Like you to take a vote to ratify.
Let me just hear
the
from
appointment.
her.
Yeah.
Not to do this first, but what we'd suggest is the DPW has studies they want to do. That as far as our 53G account, and when you're looking to us to pay a bill, we only ask that this board actually engages the party, takes a vote, we want to hire XYZ, we have a proposal from them for whatever dollar amount is, and then as you go through that contract and spend that money, this board, because if other town boards are looking to do studies, that's not within the jurisdiction of a 40B.
Yeah, but he already made it clear that that's not something that you're footing the bill on.
We are.
You're not.
He just said you're
Only
not
study,
footing the bill on
that's the
that.
only study that needs to be done. The scope of work for our on-site work is already in Merrill's contract, and she's only billed 67% of the contract.
She is not doing that review. She has stated in multiple peer review letters, she has stated it to your
a copy of that,
engineer,
Phil?
that she is not doing that review. She has stated it in writing and on the phone to your consultant. She is not doing that review,
She's not doing it, but it's in her contract.
but she is not doing
But if
it.
she's not doing it, she's not going to bill you for it because it's an estimate.
But if you've hired a certain person to do it, and it's only
They're
going to
hiring someone else now.
If it's only going to cost $4,000 or $5,000 from that professional, why are we spending 20? That 20 is for a different scope. It's not the same
Mr.
scope.
Chair, there's two, again, I had explained this.
We're talking about
I
the same
explained
thing.
this at the
Not is the
last
problem.
hearing. Yes, we are. I explained this at the last hearing, and I'll explain it again. There are two parts to this. There's the review of the on-site layout, infrastructure, et cetera, for the water and sewer, and then there are the off-site impacts. For example, on another 40B, there was a pipe that was too narrow for the amount of water they needed for the site. That's an off-site impact, but they were not going to have water pressure for their homes or fire without that, looking at that off-site pipe. This is done in every project, 40B, not 40B. You look at, the flow has to get from the project to the treatment plant. The infrastructure has to be there to cover the flow from 435 bedrooms. Thus, the Stantec scope is both the on-site infrastructure and looking at the off-site impact. That's something Merrill would never do, ever anyway, so for this board. So it is not correct that this is a scope that's, $20,000 for looking at pipes in the ground on site. That's not accurate, but both of them are directly related to both the design of the site and the impacts of the site. And this is the proposal that I'm recommending that the board vote to confirm and ratify that was
Take a better look at
presented.
it, probably during a break.
Sure.
Let's move on. I think the attorney counsel wants to come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Matt Eckel. I'm an attorney with Fletcher Tilton on behalf of the applicant.
Sorry to interrupt. My name is Jack Leffel, represent the applicant as well. Through the chair, can I present some information for you to review during this conversation?
Sure. Is this stuff that was already previously submitted?
Yes.
Okay.
We have copies.
We might have it already, but.
It's just physical copies.
Okay.
Flip through it.
Take a quick look at it.
On the slideshow, too?
Can you give that one to Michelle, please? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
As mentioned, we have our full team here before you tonight to answer any questions the board may have. As mentioned a couple of times since our last hearing, there have been a lot of updates and emails and correspondence, as well as some submissions. So we did draft a letter kind of highlighting the high points of that. And what I'd like to do is just walk through that letter. It was submitted and is up on the portal, but not knowing who has had an opportunity to review it or fully comprehend it, we just want to kind of walk through really three main points relating to traffic, the height of the development, and landscaping. And then again, we have a bunch of supporting plans and images and our consultants here who can walk you through that in greater detail. But first and foremost, we'll talk about traffic. Obviously, there's been extensive conversation and as evidenced by the bills, lots of back and forth relating to traffic with both our traffic consultant as well as the board's peer review consultant. We believe these exchanges have demonstrated the consensus that this project itself is not going to result in significant negative effects on the traffic conditions at the nearby intersections, although there are current deficiencies which this obviously will not improve, but will not greatly negatively impact. Therefore, we also talked about a fair share based on a common formula to calculate what the fair share of our mitigation would be related to traffic. I believe this was discussed at the May 21st hearing as a result of hearing that the board and the constituents thought more was needed. We are looking to and prepared to make a $30,000 contribution at the issuance of the first building permit in connection with this project to a traffic improvement fund managed by the town. Ideally, this would go to direct improvements right in this neighborhood or right at this, some of the major intersections. However, that would be at the town's discretion if that makes the most sense to fund it for those purposes and use it for those purposes, or if it would be looked at in some wider range planning initiatives. The second major issue is the height of the building. We have obviously heard from the board as well as some of the abutters that the height remains an issue, although we did highlight a number of changes that were made prior to even submitting with the zoning board, which included moving the buildings, relocating some of the amenities to the opposite side, making sure we comply with all side yard setbacks so that we're pulled as far away as possible from the side yard. We did look and study the plans and are proposing now, and I don't know if we can pull up any of the images, and certainly Clay can go through them in further detail, but we're proposing that the northerly component of the three buildings, which are closest to Eisenhower Street, will be partially reduced so that the height on that kind of far end or the far right side of the buildings would appear to be 3 stories with then the walkout terraces on 2 of the 3 buildings.
Hold on a second. Do you have a means by which you can put that on the big screen?
I think we're trying to do that. I think it's...
Well, all right, we're going to just pause you for a second. I want the people who are here in the audience to be able to see some of this, and even the viewers at home.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Chair, what we've done, what we'd like to do is have Clay Smook, our architect, walk you through the changes.
Okay.
So you can really see them and understand.
Well, we can just put them up now so we got the point of reference.
No, no. No, that's one of his colleagues. Yes, in his office.
Great, thanks, Jack. So on this image here, you can see closest to the red numbers and arrows, the three buildings on the right side of the property. The front one is currently 4 stories, and the back ones are 4 with a terrace, a walkout terrace, so they could read as 4 or 5, depending on which direction you're looking at them. So it'll be a little bit easier to see once we get to the elevations, but you can see on each building essentially a dotted line, 2 of them creating kind of Tetris-like pieces, and the other is a traditional rectangle. So we're proposing to scale back the upper floor on that level, which will provide some more relief and scaled back massing to the Eisenhower Street abutters. So again, this will read as a 3-story building on the far right side with the walkout terrace for those 2 back buildings, and then a 3-story building for the front building. Jack, if you can go to the elevations. So here's just a better idea of what the buildings would look like. Again, there's that massing, but it's set back, pulled back, and Clay can give you more details on how far it is. But again, just to add some more relief and reduce the overall massing of the project closest to the property is along Eisenhower. So that is a reduction in the height of those 3 buildings for a portion of it. And then we'll hold on height here and bring Clay back up in a minute. But the final topic that was mentioned in our letter was related to landscaping. Although we're keeping a lot of the landscaping on our side to create that natural buffer between us and the properties on Eisenhower Street. We know there's been some discussion and realized that further measures could likely be taken to help with any kind of screening, whether it was fencing, plantings, or any kind of screening and buffering. So what we're offering is those 6 properties on Eisenhower Street in the event that they elect to make any improvements on their side of the property to provide some screening. We would set aside $5,000 per property, and if those improvements were made, they would be compensated for those improvements. So we believe this is a good faith effort to address the 3 major issues of traffic, height, and a landscaping buffer. So again, our whole team's here. We'd like to walk through perhaps the height with Clay a little bit further, and then take any questions from the board on any of these items or any other open items. Thank you.
Good evening, Clay Smook with Smook Architecture. I've presented here before. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk some more. We're actually pretty excited about this, this version of the plan that we've been investigating. Really has to do with pulling back the scale of the buildings from the Eisenhower properties. As we mentioned, the first building that's closest to Hathaway, which sits on a fairly flat site, which is 4 stories tall, we're proposing to step down approximately the 45 feet as you move towards the Eisenhower. It steps down to 3 stories, and I'm going to take you through some of the heights. It's 33 feet there, and as you move back to the buildings where there are 4 stories with a walkout, those are set back on the longest leg, 57 feet. So what we're really starting to do is break the massing down and step it down to the neighborhood. So if you go to the next slide, this is pretty interesting because we took this image from, I believe it's called Sherbrooke, which was Sherbrooke Village, which I believe was mentioned in one of the meetings by either someone on the board or somebody in the audience. We looked at that. What's really interesting there is at the cornice line, that's the top, the very top of the vertical plane of the wall. On that project, you're at 31 feet. And what we're proposing now is there's building B right next to it. Our building is going to be 33 feet tall. It's going to be 3 stories. That piece of massing, as it steps towards Eisenhower is going to be 33 feet tall, which is fitting within the scale of that neighborhood. And what we're doing is we're pushing that fourth story far back, about 45 feet back, ostensibly doing something similar, which Sherbrooke did, which is, again, it was 31 feet. It has a fairly significant roof, but that roof falls away. And by pushing that attic story back, we're sort of allowing sort of the visual plane as you look up, it falls further back. Another thing that we did, and still staying on the center image, is we've worked with the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, really looking at the placement of the rooftop units. And what we've done is we've identified a zone in the center of the building, roughly 18 to 20 feet wide. And you can see at the very top where there's a 3-foot screen wall that we've created there, and that would happen on all the roofs. But we've sort of redesigned the building because that screen wall originally was part of the massing, and we had it all the way forward to the front of the building. So we really broke the massing down another 3 feet. So again, 33 feet to the top of the roof at that projected piece on the center, and then further back where it's 4 stories, it is 44 feet. Now stay on this slide, but moving to the right image. Now this is the 4-story, 3/4-story with the walkout. It's the nature of this site. I mean, we've all seen residential homes where they're built on sites where they're sloping, and they're 2-story buildings, and they have a walkout below. We've seen it many, many times, and it's no different here. So what we have here is, and as the attorney called it, that Tetris piece, the piece that has a block that pushes forward even more. You've got a 3-story mass of the building with a walkout, obviously, on the east side, and it's projecting out. But on that block that's at the far right, if you can follow with me here, is actually 57 feet back until you get to that further mass. So you can see the mass of it breaking down. So when we go to what does this mean on the next slide, when we start to look, well, here's just a section before we go to looking at the Eisenhower side. This is Hathaway on the left. The site obviously terraces down. We created that red datum line because what's really interesting is, again, we're at 44 feet, and as you move, again, if you move the visual plane further to Eisenhower, will be at 33 feet, which I'll show you in a minute. But we're at 44 feet, and you can see the way the buildings. It's fairly similar between the building B and the next building in the center because it only goes down about a foot. But as you go down to the next building, that 4-story building just drops. It makes sense from the topography standpoint. Now we want to look at a couple of images, next slide, that take a look again at those houses. And what you're seeing here is really significantly, first of all, you start to see the elevation of the entire building on the left. You can see in this image, and this is the furthest image down. So this is, if you look where the red line is at the top, that's the furthest building down at the end. It's called Building F, I believe. And you can see that 57 feet roughly, that's 3-story building. It almost looks like a 3-story townhouse. You can see that, again, that roof screen projected further back. But you really start to see, you can imagine with your eye from that yellow existing house drawing sort of a diagonal at roughly about 30 degrees that the building is literally setting back, similar like it would if it had a pitched roof on it. The next image looks a little bit further up the slope, I believe. Yep. Now we're at building D, that's the middle building. Similar effect, looking at the yellow existing building at on Eisenhower, our building on the far left, again, at a very, very, even more gentler slope because the distance is even greater on this section. You're seeing sort of the view and, again, the building setting back. And then finally, moving closest, which is called Building B at Hathaway, this is that house that has large columns on it, has sort of a plantation feel to it. Again, we've taken that upper story off the last 46, 47 feet of the building and dropped it down. And it actually works very well with the architecture that we created to begin with, because the design of the building is broken down to feel like a series of townhouses, and part of that is really breaking up the visual impact of the vertical wall so that it fits within the scale of those homes.
Do you mind going back to the elevation?
Sure.
Highest point on that other project, the highest point.
Right. So going back to the slide that has, okay, so again, getting back to the Sherbrooke Village, again, we're at 31 feet at that cornice line, but the top of the ridge line is actually, I believe it's, does that say 47 and a half feet? Exactly. So the top of that ridge line is at 47 and a half feet. Our building is 44 feet to the top of that 4-story. It won't be any higher than that. Of course, there is that setback, roughly 18 to 20 feet from the edge of the building, of course, is that screen wall to maintain some screening of the mechanical units. But in short, the height of our building and the height of that ridge are roughly the same. We're actually a few feet lower.
I'm listening to you, but it's not very persuasive, because the elevation between the road on Old Westport Road and the base where the buildings are gonna be built for Sherbrooke is about a 15-foot difference, minimum 15-foot difference in elevation. When you drive by, the perspective is completely different from what this is gonna look like, but I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm not buying, but I'm listening.
Well, I think that this is an appropriate level. If you go back, just go forward a couple of more times. Just there's a good example of it. I think we're gesturing down to the neighborhood. We're breaking the scale of the building down appropriately, given the gap between the end of that building and what I'm calling the White Plantation building. I think that drops down very, very well. And again, even as you move further to the left, it's perceived as a 4-story building. It is a 4-story building. That's the view from Hathaway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Phil Cordero, Allen and Major Associates. I was hoping not to speak tonight, but I did just want to, hearing the point that you actually just brought up about the change in grade for Sherbrooke Farms, we actually have a fairly similar situation because of the way Hathaway Road. Could you go back to just a site plan, please, Jack? If we were to take a grade elevation generally in this corner property line, we're about 118, 120 along Hathaway Road. And this building elevation is set down 107. So we actually have that 13, 14-foot delta as you walk in from Hathaway into that first building, and then it continues to go downward from there.
How far back from the roadway does it start to have that difference in elevation?
Say again, sir, I'm sorry?
How far back from the roadway does that elevation actually have that much of a distinction?
So we have, along the front of the road through here, we have approximately 20 feet with the retaining wall and the decorative screening that we'll have in here. And then there's a 62-foot tray with the parking. So if I added all of those up, say off the cuff, 85 feet or so.
And what's the elevation difference between the road? Well, that's the road at the highest point. Why don't you go down the road on the other lower point on the far left?
Sure.
Of where your thing is, and see what the difference in elevation is at.
Sure.
Between those two.
Sure. No, absolutely. No, you're correct to note that, in that we know Hathaway Road runs down through here and it's steeply sloped this way, it's steeply sloped that way. When you jump to the other corner of the land, we have generally Hathaways at about 101, 102 in here, and our pool is about 101 and a half. So it certainly levels out as you continue going down Hathaway Road. The messaging that I just wanted to jump in is to just grab some of that elevation difference that we've talked about throughout the hearings and how it actually ties to the architecture that Mr. Smook just laid out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Just a couple of things, Mr. Chair. During previous meetings, there was a question was raised about what happened from the project eligibility letter to where we are today. And that were we responsive to the comments that were made by the planning board in the Pell process. So we asked Allen and Major to prepare And in that packet, you'll see it, and it was submitted through the portal, and it was also submitted to you guys. It's a June 9th letter from Allen and Major, and he put it in their normal response format where it shows a comment from the planning board, actions taken to date. The next item that I just want to bring to your attention is the summary that Allen and Major prepared as far as our response to requests as it relates to sewer and water capacity. You'll see there's a letter dated June 11th with a great deal of detail of when things happened, what was submitted, what was provided, everything from addressing some capacity issues to water analysis issues. And also, we have not submitted to my knowledge, I believe it's here, we have, dating back over a year, we worked in conjunction with the DPW, Mr. Barber, in looking at, improvements in Hathaway Road, whether they were ours or the town's. We also looked at a pump station that we may partially have a benefit from improving, and in conjunction with Tim Barber's office, they went out for bids on what it would cost to upgrade that plant, what it would cost to put in new, larger lines if we decided we wanted them. And as mentioned at the last meeting, those independent estimates of the cost of the work are a fraction of the impact fees that we are required to pay as part of our water and sewer connection. Also in your packet, just for your convenience, in the blue, you'll see we provided a June 1st revision number 2 waiver list. Earlier, I don't know if Phil is here yet, but Susan mentioned that there was a waiver list embedded in the landscape plan. Would you mind explaining that real quick?
Again, Phil Cordero, Allen and Major, just touching upon the waivers that Attorney Murphy had pointed out. We did submit, obviously, revision 2, which captured 2 waivers, just for clarity. We're happy to provide a redlined version. I apologize for not doing that. I should have done that, just so you can track along in terms of what we've done. But the change that's in front of you is really only 2 waivers. And then to Mr. Calhoun's point, and then Attorney Murphy's point, on our landscaping plan, it does appear we do have a couple of notes in our zoning table where we don't have quite enough plants to be fully compliant with the bylaw. So I will make certain that those get captured in the waivers so you're reviewing it comprehensively.
Thank you. Other than the waiver list, one of the items that we have discussed, we're very, very fortunate in that we have such a large site. And our intention is to, at the end of the day, when this process is complete, is to donate a good portion of that. We've talked to several groups that would be the beneficiaries of it. And in addition to that, we also provided a conceptual A&R plan, which you'll see. And what we're looking at, we would be dividing the property into 3 separate parcels. The reason why there's 3, if you look at the blow-up in the lower left-hand corner, and a gentleman, actually, before the hearing, was mentioning some of the parking constraints that the church has next door. The church currently has a license to park on our property and encroach on our property, and that's been there, and that gets renewed, but it's at the discretion of the landowner. What we wanted to do to clean this up, and we reached back out to Pastor Derek, and what we're looking to do is the property which they typically license from us, we're looking to donate that to them because it makes it cleaner and safer for them, so no one could ever extinguish that license and they'd actually have a parking constraint. So that's an item, you can see it in the blow-up, which is something that we're looking to do with them. The rest of this is land that we would propose to finalize with the right group that's going to get a true benefit out of it. We're trying to find a group that would actually see some passive use with it, which might be access for them for people to walk, walking trails, et cetera. And at the right time, when we determine that we don't have any issues that we have to adjust for, that we'd come back and file an A&R for that final plan. But that's there for you to review. It's conceptual, it's not final.
All right, thank you. All right.
Mr. Chair, I think,
Certainly.
yep, I think at
Oh,
this,
hold on. Do any members have any questions? Mr. Human?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Schuber?
Not at this time, but I.
Gentlemen, any questions?
Not this time.
All right. I'm a little concerned about a couple things. So obviously, they've addressed the height.
Traffic.
Well, they've addressed what they believe they've addressed, the height.
so,
I think the biggest issue I have right now, in addition to height, is probably the traffic and some of the intersections, but they do have their expert here today. Hold on, Mr. Calhoun.
so there's a few things that I don't know what order the board wants to, so they made the presentation, but there's some
According to theirs, they started with
open
traffic.
questions. I don't know, whatever order the board wants
They
to
went
go
traffic,
in.
height, and
And
landscape, so,
right, and so, and the water, wastewater, which is not, there's not any information yet in order to address that. So, I don't know what order you do want to go in.
Let's start with
that,
traffic.
but- Okay.
that's concerning too. So they have an expert. I think Mr. Calhoun wanted to say something else, so.
Clarification, and Matt briefly explained it. When we came to conclusion, I spoke to your member who was designated the person to talk about traffic and the fair share and what we're supposed to contribute to. Because when you look at the fair share analysis, you go down it and you're like, these guys are putting pennies towards things. The fair share program is a known engineering practice where you determine what the improvements are that you want, you put together a value on them, and then a calculation is made by the traffic engineers as to what responsibility you should step up on based on what you're doing to that intersection. And when you total up everything that we were supposed to be contributing for, based on the fair share, it was only $5,700. And we felt that it would be best served that, if you look at some of the items on that list, some of them are pretty simple and cheap, regardless of who owns responsibility for them. So we said, okay, the amount we have, we're going to jump that up to $30,000, and we're going to put that into a fund, which we don't control, that the town controls, and then they can decide they want to hit some of these quick items without having to go for other funding, or they want to take it. But one of the things we looked at that we've done with a lot of towns, and Jack will share it with you, is our recommendation would be that you take the funds and we engage jointly Jeff Dirk's firm to do a grant application. And we really feel that the grant application, it's going to cost about $27,000, their proposal to do it. You could go for a grant application, and because of the unique situation that you have some stuff over in New Bedford, that the grant application would go in for 2 towns. So with their expertise, you could create a pretty significant grant, probably, I'm not going to say the amount, but a very, very strong number. And it would be embraced most likely by the Commonwealth because it's housing related and you're addressing concerns in 2 towns. And that $27,000, $30,000 could easily turn into a very, very big multiple of that and give you resources to do all kinds of things unrelated to our project. Thank you. Jeff, do you mind sharing that? Yeah,
Sure, come on up.
Has this been submitted before, is this?
No.
This is new? Okay.
That's just a grant application proposal.
Thank you.
are you gonna have, I think we should have their consultant come forward. I probably have a few questions. I'm sure the board members have some questions.
Good evening,
So-
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. So I do know you speak English, but when I listen to you,
I try anyways.
it's like you guys speak, when I say you guys, meaning the traffic, it's like you guys speak in circles to me. And I don't know where you got that training, but it's pretty damn good. So I want to break this down so that I can understand it and everyone in the audience can understand. As if I'm in third grade. When I look at this, based on the information I've been able to gather from your presentation, from his presentation, from the documents that I've reviewed, the hotspots of traffic concern seem to be the intersection of Route 6 and Slocum Road, and also the two intersections on 140 North and 140 South on Hathaway Road.
Correct. I would also add in the Burger King driveway.
If you had to rank those, and I just brought out those three, but if there's another,
Right.
if you had to rank them from the most serious impact that this particular project has in adding additional strain for traffic in those areas, how would you rank them?
So I would, if I had to kind of rank them in terms of numbering, it's the 140 Hathaway interchange is where most of the traffic is concentrated up there. So if you look at impacts related to the project, that's where we have more concentrated traffic at that interchange, which is in New Bedford.
All right, and you treat north and south as the same subject area?
Because we have a heavy northbound when they come back, they're going southbound. So the traffic is going to use both of those intersections equally.
So you're of the mindset, or it's your opinion, that that intersection there, of the north and south on 140, is actually going to have, this project will have a greater impact there than it will have on Route 6 and Hathaway Road?
That's correct.
Well, hold on, that's not how this works, right? And you arrive at that basis or that opinion, how?
Based on the directionality of the traffic associated with the project, in that when you look at where the traffic wants to go for employment centers, most of that traffic is using the interchange. Now, most of it, 50, 60% of it is going there. The rest of it will be going through those other locations. But also, I think the other important point in looking at that is, where is the Commonwealth or others currently focused on improvements and have slated, scheduled, and committed funding for improvements? Where you see that happening is on Route 6. There's a project at the Burger King driveway, and we've talked about that. There's a project at the Slocum Road intersection with Route 6. There are no projects at the Route 140 interchange, zero. So when you look at where, if you're spending money, the Commonwealth is spending money on Route 6. They've already have projects committed on that section of road. They have not committed money to the Route 140 interchange. So we have a concentrated impact there without others beyond the project committed to making improvements. And so that's why I rank it higher, because we have more traffic going through those interchanges, but there's also no commitment for improvements by anyone else.
But the commitment to improvements, it's bothersome for me, because I've been on this board for a long time. I've been hearing about these improvements since at least 5, 6 years, and I haven't seen a single thing happen in these areas. And when I look at this project, I look at it as an additional contributor to an already ongoing significant problem in our town.
Correct.
And I don't know how in good conscience I can actually vote on something that's going to worsen that situation, significantly worsen that situation. So what can you tell me that's going to persuade me to think that there's something that I can assess against this developer that will lessen that problem, and the cost will probably be X number of dollars?
So there's a couple things. So when money is allocated for physical improvements at interchanges or intersections, the state allocates the money. They have physically dedicated money, and this is different than a transportation bond bill, which you may be familiar with. The transportation bond bill, the legislature just says this is the universe of projects. They're not funded. The difference is what's happening on Route 6 is these are funded, committed projects. Each of the metropolitan planning areas within the state lists their projects and they commit funding. It's fiscally constrained. They have committed funding for Route 6 at the They've committed funding for Route 6 at the Burger King driveway intersection. It's committed. Not only is it committed, it has been listed on the Transportation Improvement Program, to your point, every single year. Projects come off that list. This has not come off that list. This is still on the list to start construction in the spring of next year. So yes, has it been kicked down the road? It is. As far as we're all concerned, and as far as the Commonwealth is concerned, there's a project there and they committed funding to it, and it's still there. So we know that that work is going to happen. Route 6 at Slocum Road is another phase of that project. That's different. There isn't funding committed to that. It's listed as a future project, but there's not on the tip as a fiscally constrained project. Route 6 at Slocum Road, we've identified improvements at that intersection. We've listed them, we provided them to your consultant. Your consultant has reviewed that list and has agreed that this is a list of improvements that can be done.
But with all due respect, I don't see that as a big problem. I don't see that intersection, Route 6 and Slocum Road, as a significant problem, or that this will be a significant contributor to an ongoing problem in that area.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you had
I was
said.
saying Route 6 and Hathaway Road.
Correct. That is a committed project. And we've talked about this several times. And I understand what you're saying, but
When you say committed, what is your understanding of the level of improvements that they're committed to, and how much is that going to lessen the amount of traffic in that area versus how much this project is going to contribute,
Right.
and where will the end result be?
So the end result will be an intersection that is a signalized intersection with dedicated turn lanes. We have fully analyzed that intersection as a part of our analysis. Your consultant has reviewed that with those committed improvements, which are scheduled for construction next year, and our project, not only our project, all of the other projects that this board has reviewed in the town, added to that intersection, plus background growth. That intersection operates at an acceptable level of service. It's going to be significantly improved, safer, and delays will go down substantially. Our impact is minimal at that intersection with those improvements, and again, it's committed. So that's, again, a location where we've already analyzed it, we've assessed the impact of this project and said that it's going to operate at an acceptable level with minimal impact, with those improvements in place, with the signal that is committed to being done by the state and is fully funded and is scheduled to start construction next year.
I'm going to open it up to public hearing, I promise. We're going to close at 8, but I wanted to listen to this gentleman.
Mr. Chair,
did
can
you
I?
want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to, so I look at, obviously, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'm looking at it as I need to advise the board, if you get to a decision, if the decision moves towards if the board were to consider approving it, how do you kind of articulate this in the decision, right? What's happening? And I see it, and the traffic engineers may correct me, in 3 buckets, right? So you have the state road projects where there's a reasonable expectation, committed funds, those are going to move forward, and they're in Dartmouth. Then you have the local roads in Dartmouth that DPW may have control over, be able to do some improvements to because they don't have to get permission from the state or whatever. And then you have the New Bedford situation where these are. So and I'm just doing a hypothetical here. I don't know where the board's going to go with it. But if it was to say, okay, the money's there, as Mr. Dirk is saying, hopefully they're going to start the construction the beginning of next year. They're saying, all right, if the board can get comfortable with that, again, I don't know if you will or not, then that's one. Then we're talking about improvements needed, on the local roads at this point, and then there's New Bedford, and the proposal is to make a payment to the town of $30,000. Whether or not the $30,000, how far that goes for addressing the local roads that DPW can control, I'm not qualified to answer that question. And then there's New Bedford. For anything to happen in New Bedford, you need the buy-in of New Bedford, and they did do some work here, which is, helpful on, a kind of proposed contract, right, to put the grant together. If I heard Mr. Calhoun correctly, and I may not have, He's saying, oh, but you should take the 30,000 we're offering the town, and you should help us pay for this grant, as opposed to that money going to the town to be used as town roads. And so I think, though I would recommend to the board that that's kind of, are you comfortable with what's going to happen with the state on Route 6 in Dartmouth? Are you comfortable with $30,000, and should that $30,000 be kept in Dartmouth to be used on Dartmouth roads? And who's responsible for taking the lead, drafting grant applications, doing the outreach to New Bedford, because that's where Mr. Dirk has said the majority of their impact is going to be. So should they be taking the lead, responsible for the cost of doing that application and the outreach, and including the appropriate town officials? So that's how when I see a potential way to frame this in a decision, is just something I just wanted to share with the board to think about, not sure where the board is on it. But I just wanted to break it down into its component parts, because those are the questions that I would have for the board if we get to a drafting stage. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What if we condition the project until such time as these improvements on Route 6 and Hathaway Road are completed?
Thank
Can you do that legally?
That I would need to look into that and get back to you on that one.
Just thinking out loud, that's all. All right,
Mr. Chair, if I
yes,
may.
absolutely.
I mean, we're on the traffic, so it's a 40B project, and traffic obviously is an issue everywhere, every town, we know that, right? And from what's their obligation towards a 40B application for traffic? So we hired a traffic consultant, right? He's a traffic expert, we all agree. He's probably one of the best in the state, and we also hired another peer reviewer, probably one of the best in the states. Are we accepting what this traffic is telling us? There's an impact. He's not saying there's no impact. There is an impact. But this impact is going to be this and this and this. At every intersection, maybe there'll be 2 more cars during peak hour on turning, or maybe just a number, hey, 5 cars or 10 cars, whatever the number is. And we had a peer review who looked at the traffic. Are they in agreement? And then if they are, what is their fair share? If we're increasing by 2 cars, is there a formula that say 2 cars over 50,000 or 500, this is our share? And they came up with 5,700, and I said, we're going to give you 30,000. Now we can say, no, we want 500,000. Can we do that? We want the intersection. We want to build a traffic light. It would be nice to have a traffic light, I agree. Can we do that? This is my question, as a 40B application.
Right. Well, I guess the first question is that's what they've presented? Have those numbers been tested, questioned? Who came up with those numbers? How did they decide
Right.
it's
That's why
5,000
we have
versus
a peer review.
30,000?
That's what I'm saying.
Right, well, that has not, I don't think, been
Well, that's what I'm
answered.
moving into next. That's where
Right.
we're going to have our expert on board. Mr. Dirk has already explained his position on it.
But as I understand it, the reason, and Mr. Finland, you're going to have to ask him because he'll know better than me. The reason they're saying that the traffic won't be as bad as it might be is because because Route 6 improvements are going to happen, and if these improvements are made at 140. So the question is, if those improvements let's assume that the state stays on track, whether it's 2027, 2028 for the committed funds. I mean, I have worked on projects that have committed funds. I understand what Mr. Dirk is saying. I understand they get pushed back, but having the funds on the tip is a big deal for knowing that it's likely to move forward. So let's assume that happens, but there's no projects, no funds for 140. The question is, what happens if those improvements at 140 never happen or don't happen for 10, 20 years? What does that do to the impact of this project? And that's, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's the question you're asking.
What's the impact on 140, and what's the impact? Let's say they don't build that signal for another 10 years for some reason,
Yep.
Within that 10 years, what's the impact of this particular development on Route 6 and Hathaway Road?
Well, I'm not
That's
even
what you want.
No, I
This
think
is
my- yeah,
what
my-
they have it. They have
Maybe you
that.
can explain it to me.
Right, and then they tell
So-
you, this is our fare, this is what we're gonna do. Is that 30,000, what's the 30,000 is gonna, the improvement for Route 6 and Hathaway, is it for striping? Certainly, there's no realignment of the intersection or adding another lane, or is it gonna be just signage, and is this gonna solve any, is it gonna make the level of service the same as it is now, or is it going to be worse? And what's the delay? I think we went through this before, right? But
We
just,
did.
if you can just recap, like, if quickly, I just don't.
So
you know, go through.
can we start with it from this perspective? Start with it from the 140 North and Hathaway Road. If the project is built with the 300 units, with the X number of bedrooms, how much additional traffic can you quantify for that intersection?
How much additional traffic is the project going to add to that intersection?
Is it an unfair question?
Oh, it's absolutely not, but it's something that I have to look at. I've got to look at these networks, and then I've got to add all the numbers up. So if we're going to go through each of the intersections, it'd be good to know now, because I've got to add all the numbers up on these, because it's not typically the way that we do this. So happy to answer the question. I don't know that it's fair to ask me to do this right now. I'd have to put a chart together for you, and it's probably going to, if I was sitting in the office, it would be probably about an hour's worth of work to put that together. So
And I want to be fair. I want to be fair to you.
Yeah.
So I think you have crunched some of these numbers before.
We have all of the
And I think
numbers,
you've given us
yes.
charts, and I've seen some of this.
But I think, back to where I think we started with the discussion, and not to digress too far, we've produced a traffic study as well as four response to comments to the peer reviewer. Your peer reviewer has issued 3 comments. I think what's very important, and not to digress too far, is to say that we have a letter from your consultant dated June 4th that very clearly says there are zero technical issues outstanding relative to the transportation analysis, that your consultant agrees that we've fully analyzed the project, they agree upon what the impact is, and the outstanding item to be discussed is exactly what I think you've been collectively discussing now, which is we've provided the fair share amount, which we all know is extremely low. And so the applicant has made an offer of the $30,000. The question is the $30,000 acceptable? And I think what that comes back down to is conversation with your consultant as well as with DPW to figure out, what is it that the town sees as infrastructure needs within the town, and is the $30,000 as it relates to the project sufficient to accomplish that? That's the conversation. The conversation as it relates to impacts, and again, obviously you ask all the questions and we will answer every single one of them, is really come down to the mitigation, and is the $30,000 acceptable? Going back to what the impact is of the project itself, and it's similar to the water and sewer discussion, which is that if we have intersections that have a capacity issue, this applicant's not responsible for addressing it. That's very clear. If you want to know what's happening at the interchange with Route 140, the movements coming off, especially left turn movements, are failing, and we've documented that. They're over capacity. The fix is to install traffic signals at both of those ramps. That's over $1 million worth of work to be done at that interchange for capacity. And that, just like water and sewer, is not the responsibility of the project as it relates to Chapter 40B. What the applicant's responsibility is safety, and then a fair share cost towards addressing capacity. That's it. That's it. Fair share is what we provided to you, and we're saying we're going to do more than that.
So if it's $1 million, your client's offering us $30,000 to actually fix that area.
That's correct, because their fair share calculation, which is all they're responsible for under 40B. If we went to
That's what I'm
the
saying.
discuss,
Where's that
yeah.
fair-
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Well, that's why this man's going to come up.
Can you explain the fair share concept?
Correct. So what the fair share concept is exactly what the chair had asked, which is that tell us how much additional traffic you're adding to this intersection. It's the percent increase in additional traffic correct. That's exactly right. Right. So what you see is a lot of traffic going through each one of these intersections, large volume. Our percent increase at each of those intersections is very small. And that's why when you look at something where you have $590,000 to do geometric improvements at a signal, and we have a 1% increase in traffic there, we're responsible for 1% of the cost of the improvement. And so that's where the numbers come from.
And what you're describing is what every traffic engineer in the United States would use to calculate fair share?
That is the way that it's traditionally done. That's correct. It's no different, and it's done on all projects that we work on.
Right, but the question I have for the board is, how many projects that you've come in front of the board, that have come in front of you, 40B or otherwise, and I can speak to the ones when I sat on a planning board for 11 years, plus my 35 years as council, how many has someone said, well, our fair share is 1%, so we're going to give you $5,000? It's one way it's tackled, but it's not the only way or the most common way that it's tackled.
Okay.
So the question is, when they're saying $30,000, but then they're saying, but then take your $30,000 and put it towards working with New Bedford on an application, that means there's no money to do anything in Dartmouth. So I don't know if you want to.
So there's some discussion that needs to have with that, but I'm going to ask our consultant to come up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so you heard sort of the conversation that I had with Mr. Dirk and also my fellow members of the board. What can you provide us that would give us more guidance in making a determination as to, one, whether or not their percentage allocation of increased traffic is either correct or incorrect? I presume you're going to say it's correct based on whatever calculations are utilized, because you guys use the same math. And then whether or not you feel 30%, based on your level of experience and training in this,
30,000.
What did I say?
30%.
$30,000 would adequately address, or even if we have because maybe the money won't fix it. Even if they give us 300, there's no ability with the 300 to really address it anyway. So the number, I don't know how good the number is. So I'm relying on you to give me some guidance.
I'll do my best. For the record, my name is Stephen Finland from Howard Stein Hudson. We were retained by the town to do a peer review of the traffic study. So you had those two questions. I just want to take a step back if I can.
Sure.
Just about the ramps. The intersection at the Burger King.
Yes.
And the whole discussion about the MassDOT project. So the applicant's consultant is correct. That is a program project. And the way that they looked at it when they did all their analysis, it was assuming that this project would be in place, so the analysis and things like that.
So their analysis of minimal percentage increase is already taking into consideration the improvement.
Correct. Yeah. So
And
if you look,
is that an accurate means by which to actually gauge this?
so if you look at that table that talks about the improvements, you don't see that location listed because in the applicant's mind is that's being fixed by MassDOT.
Okay.
So, the table that we're referring to, you don't see that Route 6 at Hathaway listed, if that makes sense. Because, as they analyzed it, they said, with the improvements that they're proposing, MassDOT is proposing, there will be acceptable levels of service under that design, which my understanding and what we've heard is that's currently programmed for the 2026 TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan, and scheduled for construction in the spring. So it's a real project. Like I said, to Mr. Dirk's point is, there are projects that are on the TIP that get shuffled around based on funding. This is still there, so that's a good thing. So the hope is, that is going to happen. But to Attorney Murphy's point is, I would also suggest that as you're considering conditions, you should be prepared to have language in there saying that if those improvements aren't in place, then what happens? Does the onus go back to the applicant to pay for those improvements? So you know what I'm saying. So,
Yes.
So I agree with that. That might be some language that should be considered, under your order conditions. And then just going to the 30,000 allocation that's been kind of prepared or sent to, we did see the letter. And then our June 4th letter that we submitted, I think was referenced. We still had a few outstanding issues. And, the applicant, Mr. Dirk is correct. We've spent a lot of time going back and forth on the technical issues, how things were done, how traffic counts were done. We've, like I said, we just submitted our third response to comment letter. So there's been a lot of back and forth on that. But it's really going to come down to what we're talking about tonight. And I think that's kind of leading into where I'm going here. So the way that I understand it is the proposed, what they've offered is this $30,000 that'll go to the town of Dartmouth, be put in the transportation fund to, address some of the concerns in that table that identified those locations. Route 6 at Slocum, which they're proposing,
Timing.
signal timings, retimings, no real geometric, sort of thing. And then Hathaway at Slocum, and then Hathaway at Wilbur. So those are the three locations that are in Dartmouth. So they're kind of looking at it that way. It doesn't really talk about, New Bedford, and I've heard tonight, I didn't see the letter that was just distributed tonight, but it sounds like the applicant and their consultant is going to undertake a grant application for, with the town of New Bedford, as well as, I'm assuming coordination with the town of Dartmouth. Again, that's something that they'll have to submit and get funding for. If that doesn't happen, again, you got to be prepared either through your conditions or whatever to say, okay, what happens if that grant is not awarded? Does the onus go back to the applicant? Who pays for those improvements? So just something to keep in mind as we continue through this process.
But we've been told that they're only responsible, they're not responsible to fix the existing problem. They're only responsible to, in essence, abate the additional traffic that they're going to impose at those particular locations.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen this information. Maybe Mr. Dirk can confirm this, but my understanding is a grant application will be prepared to propose improvements for installation of signals. Is that correct?
Don't leave it.
David Calhoun for the applicant. The concept was, and I had a brief discussion with one of your members, when you look at the laundry list of items there, the cost of the different items, one's $60,000, one's $2,500, another one's $2,500, another one's $2,500, one's $590,000, one's $2,500. That's the total cost of those specific items. So if you took those, regardless of whose responsibility they are, they're 4 items that cost $10,000. It could be implemented tomorrow and could cause some relief regardless of what we're doing. So regardless of the responsibility, our thought was if we give you $30,000, which is 6 times the amount the fair share calculation comes out that we're obligated to provide, you could take that $30,000 and the DPW, if they wanted, could go and knock out those 4 items tomorrow or whenever those funds are available to them. The other option, what we're suggesting is that you could probably get a much bigger bang out of the $30,000 if you used $30,000 to do a grant application for the town to get funding, and you put together a whole laundry list of projects, you tie them to our project, and the only suggestion was as to enjoining New Bedford in the process was that if you could get them to participate in the process, you have a higher likelihood of success of getting a very, very big fund that you can do all kinds of improvements. We're not saying we're giving you $30,000 plus we're giving you $27,500. The only reason why we brought that proposal for the grant application and gave it to you is because when we wanted to make that recommendation to go pursue a grant, the first question from this board would be, how much would that grant application cost? Who would do that? And that's why we're saying, here's Jeff Dirk's firm. You could engage him to do it. We'll give you the $30,000. His firm wants $27,500 to go and undertake that grant writing. Yes, the town has to participate. The town has to provide some costs, but the heavy lifting would be done, and you could get your application in a very quick fashion and make the next round, which I believe closes next June.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, because on this chart that was prepared with the fair share allocation, where it talks about grant applications for signals, again, maybe it's just a portion, it's not clear, because there's a footnote, but it's showing 2,500 and 2,500, so that's 5,000 cost to, and there's a footnote, cost to prepare the grant application. So this is showing $5,000 as cost to prepare the grant application. Mr. Dirk's firm would charge $27,000 to do it. So there doesn't, that's why I'm saying, the numbers are estimates, and then they don't really line up. So
I don't think
that's,
there's suggestion that we use the 30,000 to hire VA.
yes, that's what he just said. Yes, that's what he said.
No, he said you could use it for whatever you want to use it, but if you like to get more and get the grants, he can hire. That's the way I understand it.
Okay, good, let's hear it that
I think
way.
he gave it to us more than one option. There's a contract here that if we wanted to engage, we could.
Right.
utilize the money
He's
from.
not
So
saying
it's
we
like-
have to.
No, he's not saying we have to.
Oh, yeah.
He's not-
Right,
he's saying,
but
here's
but
an
if you
option.
don't use the money for that, then who's paying for the grant application?
Oh, we're gonna pay for it. Well, we can ask him for both. We can ask him for a lot of things.
Right.
So.
That-
let's
that
hear
was
from-
the question.
Let's hear what this,
Hey,
let's hear what this gentleman has to tell us to give us a little more
Well, that was
direction.
the question that I had. What I just heard tonight was, is it a choice between the two for the 30,000? Is it to use the 30,000 to fix the issues that are identified in this table?
I'm interpreting that as just an offer, okay? I'm interpreting that as an
Yeah.
offer. And I don't know what kind of science you guys work with, but anything that translates the impact on this to fix it for $5,000 or $6,000, the math's gotta be flawed. It doesn't make any sense to me.
and
A
that-
300-unit project, when you calculate it out, based on the percentage, you're gonna tell me it's $6,000, that's all they have to offer to the town in order to offset. You might tell me that that's accurate, but I'm just having difficulty believing that there's not a flaw in the math.
Yeah,
Meaning, not the math, the methodology.
Right.
okay?
And we had just seen the letter saying we're going to offer $30,000. We didn't see what that what that was attributed, like how that was broken down.
Well, they're also saying, I think one of the offers is you could do whatever you want with it. I think we could even earmark it for something else. If you wanted to go fix another intersection. We got another problem on Fons Corner and Route 6, if you wanted to use the money there instead of using it on Hathaway Road.
Right.
I guess that's what they're telling us, as long as, they're just looking for us to baptize this thing.
Yeah, and I guess the question I think the Attorney Murphy had raised too, and I guess maybe through the chair, if we can just understand. So you have the 30,000 that's being given to the town of Dartmouth. Offered to the town of Dartmouth. Can that be used for the improvements that have been talked about at those three locations, or for the grant? I guess, is it either or?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure.
No, you can use it for all
Just
the
for chair.
Just to clarify, we have made, based on the requirements by the fair share calculation, that our portion of the fair share calculation that we would be obligated is $5,700. What we said we would do, rather than the $5,700 out of good faith, on the basis that we'd be getting a decision with reasonable conditions, that we would jump that number to $30,000 and we would put it into a town fund, which the town would control 100%. How you spend that is up to the town. If you want to go and fix a missing stop sign or poorly striped work and you want to do that, great. It's your $30,000 to spend, and at the end of the day, we were only making the recommendation and floating the idea of you could, rather than spending your $30,000 on physical things, you could get a grant application, which...
I get the options. Okay. Now, with the $30,000, what would you recommend we do to maximize the least amount of impact that this project would have on that roadway?
Well, it's clearly what they've identified in their summary table. Retime Route 6 and Slocum.
Yep.
Make those,
But do what to that?
they've documented. So it's basically looking at the intersection. It's optimizing the signal timings and the phasings, trying to make it work better.
And is that because maybe the system that's there is antiquated and it's not been updated to have a better, maybe the photo sensorize, if you will, for lack of a better word, so that it maximizes the queue time or minimizes the queue
It's
time?
going to maximize operations of the signal as a whole.
And you think that would be money well spent for that particular area?
That's, they're saying it's going to cost $60,000 to do that.
And they're only offering us 30.
No, that's their portion of the 60,000, whatever it came down to.
They say it's the total cost, and they're only responsible for 1%.
I think we're going
100%.
off here. Let's agree, first, are we in agreement? Do you agree with their fair share, first of all? Is it reasonable?
But, you know, from what we first saw, the $5,700, you know, to me was insulting for what they're proposing. So I think that the fact that they've come back and offered $30,000 to address some of the issues that have been, you know, identified in their improvements is a much better number. So I think the town, you know, it's an offer. I think that it will allow the town to make these improvements or make other improvements, whatever the town wants to do with that $30,000. However, the issue of the whole ramps is still out there.
Right. Is this something they have to address?
Well, that was, I
As a
guess-
40B application, this is where we come down to, because legal, I mean, basically, they might have to appeal whatever, or whatever
Right.
decision we can come up
So,
with.
right, and I can't give you a full answer on that tonight, but I have a question. I'm going to do something dangerous that lawyers don't do, is ask a question I don't know the answer to. But of the projects that you are either the primary traffic engineer or the peer reviewer,
Right.
what percentage of them use this fair share? Because I can tell you my experience in 30 years is, I've never seen it before, but I don't do what you do. So of the number in your career of projects that you've reviewed, what percentage of them come up with a chart that says 1% will give you $5,000?
Well, I can tell you right now that, you know, there's a number of 40B projects that we're involved in. And one of, you know, a few of them are with Mr. Dirk and his firm too. Fair share has come out on those projects as well.
So do you see that that's more recent in connection with these 40B projects? Because I've represented other boards in other towns on 40Bs, never seen a developer
It's
propose
just,
it before.
I mean, it seems to be more common recently.
Recently?
Yep.
Okay.
So, you know, looking at what the impacts are, if the applicant is not willing to contribute 100% of the improvements, then it gets down to the fair share. And, you know, it's documented. And it typically, where it's looked at is, you know, intersections or locations that are currently maybe not operating great today. And the applicant has made this argument a few times saying, you know, it doesn't work great today. We're adding minimal traffic. However, we are willing to contribute to try to help solve the problem. We're not going to completely fund it.
Did you look at this fair share chart? You have it in front of you?
Yep.
I don't see Hathaway and Route 6.
Well, that was what I was saying earlier. So they haven't identified it as a,
Because it's going to be done by the state.
Correct.
They didn't put it on their fair share.
That's correct.
Got it.
And they've already calculated the additional traffic that they're going to, the additional impact with the improvement in consideration, right? They're taking the improvement into consideration.
Attorney Murphy, I think to answer your question and being on the planning board, and I think this is a 40B, so if this was a special permit for somebody who's coming to build 300 units, we can tell them, you're gonna put the traffic light on Route 40 and Route 6 and improve half of the town of Dartmouth. That's what I'm getting at. What our limitations with 40B? That's, you know, on similar traffic projects.
Yeah, obviously, it's more limited than if it was a special
That's-
permit, so I
yeah.
can say that. What I want to do is look at some
Yeah, see what the leverage or
decisions
whatever
and
leverage
look
we have.
at the best answer to give
Mr.
you.
Chair, I guess maybe I'm missing something. I just want to get it on the record here, a question for you. So the $30,000, can that money, you know, are they asking the town to ask the applicant to put that, is that 27 going to go towards the 30?
No, that's,
Okay.
that we could, that was just an option of what we could do with the 30. So they're not earmarking the they're not earmarking the 30 in any way. We could put it in the general fund and use it for whatever we want.
So hopefully I'm just going to, right. I just want to simplify it. So we go back to the fair share table and, you know, as whatever you want to say in terms of it being insulting or not. That table has a list of mitigation in it and the cost that goes along with it, as well as those fair share calculations. I think really the applicant's made an offer and it's really, as you said, it's write a check for $30,000, you do whatever you want to do with it. Okay, to the extent that that's acceptable. The purpose of the table was to provide the fair share, but I think what's not in dispute is what we've listed for the improvements. And I think that your consultant, and he can obviously speak for himself, has said, we agree that these are the improvements that are needed to fix these intersections. We've quantified what the cost is. We've also quantified our fair share. They've offered the applicant or my client has offered $30,000. Really, the discussion is to look at that list, which your consultant has identified and said, these are appropriate improvements for the project. We've put the cost We've said what our fair share is. It's for the board to look at the list and say, do you think that that $30,000, in looking at everything that should be done in discussion with your consultant, is it enough money to fix what you think the major things are that need to be done? And it's to start that dialogue to happen. That's all that it really is about. It's now a question of, with your consultant and your attorney, is it acceptable $30,000, or is it a different number? The $30,000 or even the fair share thing, the methodology is sound. And I do have to say, I've peer reviewed hundreds of 40B projects. I've also testified at Housing Appeals as well as Superior Court when these get challenged. The fair share calculation, and your attorney can look at this, is an accepted practice that Housing Appeals reviews and Superior Court when these get challenged. So it's not a novel approach, and it's not anything that's unique, okay? It's done all the time. In fact, I've had probably 20 or 30 projects just this year where this is an approach that's used. It is the basis of a start of a conversation, and it is nothing more than that. It is nothing more than that. Okay. The applicant makes an offer. The $30,000 is not, again, it's not something where you just say, well, that's a typical thing for a 40B project. It's not. And I think, as the member had mentioned, it's different. Every project varies, and that number in the offer varies. And sometimes the board says, no, based on discussions with your consultant and with counsel, we want you to do this work. That comes back, and again, it's the purpose of this dialogue that happens that ultimately ends up in a decision. But I do want to make it clear, I've testified and reviewed and represented boards with the fair share calculation is an accepted practice for traffic engineering and on comprehensive permit projects as well as other projects. It is really just the basis of a start of a conversation.
But I just want to, but you've also worked on 40Bs where that concept was not introduced or discussed at all. Is that correct?
It's the basis, a start of a conversation.
You and I have been in the same room.
Yeah.
On 40Bs where the concept never came up.
Because every project's different.
Right.
No,
yeah.
you're 100% right.
So that's why I'd say.
Some applicants look.
Well, that's why I asked Mr.
Yes.
Finland the question of how common it is, because, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, but every project's a little bit different in terms of that. And every 40B project's different because of the fact that traffic it's obviously a very important part, but there's other pieces. We've talked about water and sewer. So ultimately, it's a conversation because the town may say, running a new sewer line is more important to us, and the applicants agreed to do that. So we're willing to take a smaller bite at traffic because at the end of the day, it's the entirety of the mitigation package. And traffic is a piece of it, and it's a very important piece. But it's what that package looks like. And so I think that's where this is the basis of a discussion that you get input from, the offer's been made. But I think what's not in dispute is the table, the list of the mitigation, and the cost. It's really a question of then, what does the board think is fair to implement what we've listed in the table?
I understand. All right. Picking up where you left off.
I think your original two questions, Mr. Chair, was the fair share. I think that's been reviewed. And,
That's been
and then
sort of,
I think the 30,000 you had asked about, to the town government, I think that's been vetted as well. So.
well, it's something that I think we need to have further discussion between council and you, and maybe directly with you about how we're going to handle that.
Right. And I think in our June 4th letter, and this was discussed, I believe, at the last hearing, there was discussion about potentially having a working group discuss this offline. I know that hasn't happened, but maybe that's something we revisit.
Well, actually, Mr. Kaloon called me, and he went over it, and I said, it sounds good. I'm not here to make a decision or a commitment. If you can present it to the board, we can discuss it at an open. But if you want to further discuss this more details, the next time, we can discuss it among ourselves. And if you feel like you want me to, I'd rather do it here actually because.
Well, and I'm just wondering if it was the intention of the board that the applicant's just calling a board member directly without anyone else part of that conversation. So it's up to you whether you want counsel, Mr. Barber, or anybody else to be, or Mr. Finland, to be part of those conversations going forward.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hold on. The thing is this, I always promise my board, we adjourn at 8 o'clock. Okay. And I've got people here that want to speak. And I've got at least 6 or 7 hands went up, and I know you have your back, so you don't know, and I've been just telling them, if they could just hold off a little bit. So I got to give people at least 15 minutes to come up and just touch upon some of this. Now, the other thing we have a concern about is we've got dates that we have to comply with. And wondering whether or not you're going to be amenable to another continuance beyond the next date that we're going to have, because I don't know if we're going to be able to address it all by the next date. So I'm not asking for you to say yes or no right now at this moment, but do we have a gentleman's understanding, if you will, that if we need more time to hash this out, we can do so? When's our next date?
29th?
Of this
Monday,
month, right?
Monday, the 29th, yep.
It's like right around the corner.
If on the 29th, we're working towards a good decision, and a decision, in our opinion, which would be a positive decision with reasonable conditions, we're more than happy to work with the board to make a decision.
But at this point, Mr. Chair, we've spent, I think, what the board needed to on the traffic, but there's a whole other list of issues that haven't even been touched upon. There's questions from all of those materials that just came in the last 2 days, have not been fully reviewed.
I agree.
There's landscaping questions, there's
I'm not
a
gonna-
whole
I'm not
bunch
gonna
of,
touch upon that tonight.
so, you know, there's not going to be a list of conditions ready for the 29th when the board has not
I'm
even.
not saying he suggests, I don't think he's
Oh, okay.
suggesting.
I thought that's what he was
That's not what
suggesting.
you're suggesting,
Okay.
that we have a list of conditions.
But there's
ready
not going to
for
be a
you
list of conditions on the
29th. Is it
29th.
Mr. Calhoun?
You know, what we're suggesting is, if we get to the 29th and we haven't resolved things,
Well,
and you need additional time, and the consensus of the board is to work towards offering a decision, a positive decision with reasonable conditions, we would, at that point, discuss whatever time you need is reasonable.
I wouldn't do that in bad faith, so I don't think anybody on this board would do that. All right, so look, we usually adjourn at 8 o'clock. If there's anyone here that thinks that they've got something that they've not raised before, there's gonna be another hearing on the 29th, so you're all gonna be here again then, and you have the right to be here. Is there something that you think that we need to know about, that we can address with the traffic consultant, in order to address some of those concerns? So I know this gentleman here has already raised his hand at least 3 times, so I'll let you come up. Come on up.
It's Tom Babington, 19 Kennedy Street.
Sure.
So I've reached out to Mass DOT, the Taunton Division. And
Taunton Division?
yes,
Okay.
you can do this online.
Yep.
And I emailed the project manager, and we're talking about the Burger King intersection.
Yep.
The project started in 2014. 2014. The engineering work is about 75% complete. The culvert for the Pascagomet River was a bit of a problem for the engineering works that delayed it. And they expected it may go out to bid sometime in spring of 2027. That's for bid, not start construction. I don't know what the construction plans are for the Slocum Road and Route 6, what that improvement would look like. I'm not a traffic engineer, but looking through all the weeds of the first traffic study, I don't think the traffic engineers looked at the outflow of the Cumberland Farms parking lot. So when you're lined up on Slocum Road heading south towards the town hall, you end up with 3 or 4 cars in the queue from Cumberland Farms that sometimes you let them go, other times you don't let them go. That traffic flow gets interrupted by those cars exiting Cumberland Farms. That doesn't appear to be in their analysis. So when you do the modeling, you know, for how the traffic's going to be when the as-built construction is done, if you don't consider the interruption from Cumberland Farms, the model's not correct. So like I said, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'd like to hear what they have to say if they look at that.
I think Mr.
for the next
Finley's
meeting.
taking notes, are you not? All right. We'll probably have a better answer for you next time, okay?
And then the board or Ms. Murphy can also reach out to Mass DOT to get a little bit more updates on those construction projects and where they're really at. Or our peer review could do the same. The project manager is very receptive. I got an answer back within 24 hours.
Thank you. All right. Is there someone else? I'm gonna let this gentleman, he actually raised his hand before you, but you'll be next. I gotta decide what's gonna happen, I'm gonna look at it.
Hi, Dr. James Griffith. I live at 134 Hathaway Road. I had talked previously about walking on Hathaway Road, which I do every day. But it came up today that we were at some point, I don't know, ignoring or skipping by the Route 6 Hathaway Road intersection. Whenever that project is done, it is likely to decrease the number of accidents, not the amount of traffic. And in fact, I think this project that we're talking about is going to increase the amount of traffic because there will be more of a throughway to the southern part of the town. And there are times of the year, certain days of the week, when the traffic from Route 6 is backed up to my driveway, which is north of this project. And I don't see how adding 300 cars, whether they're coming or going, it seems like we think they're all going to go to Taunton or Boston because we're worried about Route 140, but they're backed up to my driveway frequently. And I don't see how anything I've heard tonight is going to mitigate any of that at all. Thank you.
Ron Dulong, 24 Dean Street. Heard a lot of talk about, all the studies and all the stuff they did on the traffic. And I'm sure they all went to college, they all got their degrees, it's a beautiful thing. But the only thing the college doesn't is common sense. They got no common sense, I can tell you that right now. You got 300 units at 2 cars per unit, and I know this because we got 12 houses on Dean Street, 2 that are addressed to Hathaway Road, and then 10 on Dean Street. There's 29 cars in 12 homes. 300 units, that's 2.2 cars a unit. They're only gonna have 442 parking spots? Where's the 158 gonna park? And that's gonna create more traffic. That's 600 cars per day, coming down Hathaway Road. That's not gonna, in fact, where are these people gonna go? Like he said, like this gentleman just said, the traffic's already back past his house. It's gonna be even before, it's gonna be all the way to Dean Street. And Slocum Road, we try to cut down there, it's gonna be jacked up. The whole place is gonna be messed up. It's crazy. The parking alone, there's no parking in, if you understand that we have 442 parking spots for 300 units, that's 150 units, and he wants the church to park in there. The church, I'll tell you right now, I'm a member of the church. Pastor Derek is a good friend of mine. He told me he's putting a fence up, 6-foot fence, so that they can't park on ours. And if they do, he'll be towing them. So it's a big problem. Pastor Derek is worried about the runoff. He's worried about the traffic. And he's so worried about the traffic, he said, Ron, when you get there, ask him about the police detail that we're going to have every Sunday to get out of the church. Have you ever been to, on Christmas, they have a police detail at Riccardi's because there's so much traffic. You imagine 600 more cars per day? It's unbelievable. And the height of the building, the pastor, they're going to cut it down to 3 stories on a little bit on Eisenhower. But there's 5 stories facing the church. When we look out at it, we're going to see, instead of beautiful trees, we're going to see 5-story buildings. Hey, come on over to our place. We got the tallest buildings in town. We got a rooftop deck. We got the best sunset that you'll ever see. And we're not even talking about the visitor parking. Well, come on over. Everybody come on over. We had a beautiful sunset. We blocked out all the neighbors. They have no sunset. It's ridiculous. I'm just saying. So if you let this project go on, if all you board let this project happen the way it's designed to happen, I will have to say this. You guys do not care about Dartmouth at all, or the residents in Dartmouth at all. So please, don't let this happen the way it's gonna be happening.
All right, so I have to warn, there's gonna be a response to that. So if we deny this project.
I didn't say deny, because you can, it's a 40B, but you don't have to let it go the same way it's going.
No. We can put conditions on this.
Yes.
Right? But there's only so many conditions that we can put on before they decide they're going to appeal it. If we deny the project, they can go before the Housing Commission and they can get what they ask for without the placement of conditions. So you're worried about parking. We can put something on there that puts no parking signs and make them pay for it all along Hathaway Road so that the people, if they don't have sufficient parking on site, they're not going to be able to park anywhere near the building.
Right.
And then they're going to have to find a means to resolve that within the inner workings of that building. If we deny it, that condition would not be placed. There are going to be numerous conditions. There's possibly going to be 50 to 100 conditions on this project. However, as they've indicated, and as we're required to, they have to be reasonable conditions. They have to be balanced out between the need for housing versus the local concern. And we can't place the entire burden of improving the problems on Route 6 and Hathaway Road and 140 or Wilbur Avenue or Slocum Road. We cannot put that all on them. I'd love to be able to do it. Let them write the check. But we can't. So I want you to understand that. Because I listen to you, I want you to understand that when you look at it from our perspective. Because I take it to heart when someone says that I don't care about the community. Every one of these men here, every one of us, even going down there, we get paid this. Since day one, I do it for 12 years. I'm not asking for anything in return, and I'm not asking it for accolades or anything like that. I'm saying it just to show you that we do care. That's the only reason why we're here. I'm here because I want my children to continue to live here, for them to have children so my grandchildren can be here. And I think my brothers here think the same thing. They're thinking the same thing. He's got grandchildren. And some of his children have having difficulty in making the decision, can they buy in Dartmouth? Because they can't afford it. He said that publicly before. So we're here for that reason. All right, no, I already gave you an opportunity. Next time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Douglas Quello. I live on 10 Eisenhower Street. I just got a question. Is it general common practice for an applicant to contact a member of the board without, at a zoning hearing?
I don't know what was discussed, if it was something just administrative, but typically it may not be done, I don't know.
No,
But I would,
no, the board,
just a
yeah,
question.
no, I'll answer that. At the last hearing, there was a discussion about there being some working sessions around the traffic mitigation, and the board designated a particular board member to speak to with the applicant team and others and report back to the board. So in this instance, it was appropriate because the board planned for it and designated for him to do it.
I forgot about that. In addition, he actually has an engineering background, so
That's
I
right.
think of
And-
all of us, he's most qualified to address those concerns.
In addition, I told Mr. Cahoon that I will not discuss in details. The concept is fine, you can present it to the board at the public hearing, and that's what he did tonight, and that's
Okay.
what I said.
Well,
So
thank you for clarifying.
There's nothing
Yeah,
going
no.
on behind the doors, let it be clear.
So one last thing. I just want you guys to know, you guys are members of this community. We're the constituents. So we're all in this community together. So just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, come on up, young lady.
Hi, Nancy Almeida of 2 Spring Hill Road,
Where is that in relation to this project?
right across Wilbur. We're in the middle.
Okay.
We're right in the middle, yep. Does anybody know here that New Bedford, the city of New Bedford is actually having an informational meeting about the Rockdale and Hathaway Road problem that they're having there? It's one of the top 5 accident intersections of the city. And for some reason, that was not included in the first meeting that we had about the traffic. It was included after, but that is still a big problem to the city of New Bedford. They did do some mitigation where they painted some lines, they added a bike path, they mitigated what they're saying they're going to be doing on some of these streets, and it's done nothing. The problem still exists there, and they're actually having this meeting on June 16th, which I think maybe, I don't know, the town should look into or maybe attend or get information as well, because that's going to affect our situation as well. Also, I had a question. Does the applicant have a cross-section picture of what this new design looks like from the houses, just like the one you have from the Hathaway Road view?
Hold on, you have to direct the questions to me.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Does the,
So, I don't know if they have one, but what do you think that's going to reveal that will assist?
well, it would be nice to see what this new design is going to look like from the people that it's going to be affecting, from the people living on the street versus a cross-section of Hathaway Road.
Okay, I'm not sure, but I thought they did provide us something to that effect. It's in here. And I'm sure it's probably on the portal as well, but
Not
if I
with the
could look.
revised, with the redesigned building.
Isn't
Yeah,
that the side view?
It's not a perspective thing. Yeah, it is.
The same perspective of Hathaway Road, because it shows it from
Oh,
the
this is a
front, it
perspective
has the
back-
house. You kind of see the view from the house, but not their backyard.
No, this is a north elevation, so if it's a north elevation, this is what you would see from the backyard of the people on Eisenhower Street.
But they actually
But you don't
placed
see
it
the
at
buildings like-
elevation and
Yeah, that's just a picture, the side view of the actual buildings.
So I'm not sure what you're asking. What are you asking for specifically?
So if they pull up the slide of the picture of the view of Hathaway Road, you see the house in yellow, and then you see the buildings. I would like to see one of this new design from the backyard of that area.
Okay.
Were any apartments reduced by pushing this line back? Was that just attic space that was in that building?
I don't believe that they were, but I'll ask that question specifically.
Okay.
I'm sure they would have amended that if that resulted in that. More than likely, you'd probably reduce the number of bedrooms in some of the units, possibly, in order to
No,
make it work.
the submission says that they're not going to reduce the number of the units or the number of bedrooms. They're just going to maybe make the bedroom, I assume, make the units a little smaller and still put in the same number of bedrooms.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering, where did those apartments go, unless that was just attic space that they were kind of flattening out and pushing
Sure,
back?
The architect can explain that to us.
Okay. And to reiterate again, the traffic situation, you can calculate all these numbers, but unless you're driving on these streets, I drive there every day, multiple times a day. My parents live there. Let's not forget that there's the academy school that's there. That's a major problem. And not only the speeding situation, but has the board been advised at any time by the state of why this project hasn't gone forward, the project on Route 6 and Hathaway Road?
I don't know, I can't answer that.
So it just keeps getting delayed?
Excuse me?
It just keeps getting delayed, or?
This was it's not promised. It was supposed to be a project that was supposed to start back in the early 2023, 2024. At one point, it was supposed to start in 2025, and.
So who's
didn't
to say
happen.
this doesn't take another 10 years for them to do it?
It's very possible.
And who's to say it doesn't get taken off the list because something else happens and they need the monies for something else?
All we know is it's prioritized. That's basically how it's been described to me. All right, so at
wrote
this
another
time,
note.
I'm going to call upon the architect, just maybe he can explain away. I'm going to take comments next meeting on the 29th. That's going to be
Okay.
the last comment I'm going to take, but I'm going to ask there to answer her question. So we lowered the height on some of the units on the north side of this project.
Exactly.
And how was that actually done? Were there,
We basically relocated those, I believe it was a total of 6 units, and we relocated that. We had, in Building A was the amenity center, which was, I believe it was about 12,500 square feet, which was the fitness, leasing, and clubhouse. And we reduced the size of that down and accommodated those units into that. We basically absorbed those units, reallocated them to the first floor of Building A.
okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I didn't know the answer to that, thank you.
And in terms of the other view, I'm sure we can provide any views from those neighbors like we had done the last time, which is really looking from their backyards, which is the key. Thank you.
That'd be great. All right, come on up. You'll definitely be the last one.
Thank you. Lori Almeida, 11 Eisenhower Street. This has to pertain to the elevation of the buildings from the backyards. One of the neighbors brought up last meeting about a balloon test. What's the situation on that? And if possible, if that can be done? Thank you.
Mr. Calhoun?
At this late stage of the hearing process, a balloon test, we've found that they're not that successful because you got to get a day without wind. And then the neighbors typically say you're faking the length of the line. We did it in another town, spent a whole bunch of money and time on it, and no matter what we did, it was not satisfactory. So to request a balloon test at this time is, we can try to schedule one, but it's really not and the trees that are there, the balloons will be hidden. So, it's not like we can clear the lot, do a balloon test, so you can see what's going to happen later. So I really don't think it's going to benefit the process, and so I'd recommend not requesting it.
Well, we could consider that, and we could relay a message if we had to. All right, so, we're on for the 29th, correct?
29, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Sure. Come on up.
Mr. Chair, just as a matter of housekeeping, and Attorney Murphy might be able to help out with this as well, it's our understanding that a few of the board members' term expires at the end of the month. So in anticipation of a potential extension into July, if there's any behind the scenes or select board votes or anything that has to happen to allow for a holdover and a commitment.
Me?
No,
Somewhere? No, I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was a lifetime appointment. Okay. I don't know if they're gonna want me here, so we'll see.
No, you should have bundled it. I'll check on that tomorrow.
All right.
And they'll have you in.
Well, thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Apologize for dropping the news, but we just want to make sure if we're here on the 29th and are considering an extension, that we'd have a full board moving forward.
Worst case, we go with 2 members.
Yeah, well, that's true. They can do it with 2 members for a 40B, but hopefully it won't come to that.
No.
Mr. Chair, Stan Tech contract. Stan Tech contract.
Yeah, so, let's make sure we isolate this. Where is it again?
I think you gave it back to me. Or no, or you handed it down the line to
I
your
did. I
colleagues.
passed it along.
And it ended up back in my pile, so let me find it. Somewhere in this pile.
So, gentlemen, that contract is the contract that is required in order to do assessments of the,
Scope is in there on the second
based on
page or
their-
third page.
based on their experts' information, and they need to verify. Have you seen that contract?
Yes, they got it on May 21st.
Okay.
It's right here.
So
It's,
what kind of?
All right, well, I'll get you a copy.
Language.
Want us to say
well, I think, I think it's just the, what's the date on the May 21st?
To accept it, to accept the contract. right?
Okay.
Yeah, and to request that the town administrator,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the Stantec contract dated May 21, 2026, sent to Timothy Barber, Director of the Department of Public Works,
from
as
state,
written.
and authorize the town administrator to enter it onto the board's behalf. Well, it's dated. There's a proposal with a date. That's the proposal.
Well, I think they responded to this. I remember reading a letter that said that you didn't agree with it. If I'm not.
Yeah.
So we'll have to hash it out after. So at this point, you're gonna formally know that this is what we're gonna do, and then you can provide us a formal response as to
No,
with the specifics.
there's no response.
Well,
The board
if it wants-
has, the board has the right under the regulations to vote to engage the consultants.
Yeah.
It's an estimate, as I stated on the other Stantec contracts. The estimates were much higher. The amounts actually came in significantly lower. This is the proposal.
All right, fair
That's
enough.
being proposed to the board.
Can you restate the motion? Because we're gonna have to authorize the town administrator to execute the agreement.
I don't know what it says, it's all awesome.
You have a copy of it from May 21st. It has not changed. You were, Mr. Barber, did the applicant get provided a copy of this contract dated May 21st?
I believe so.
Well,
Yes, because, you know how we know he do? Because his counsel sent the board, which I have right here, an extensive letter rejecting it, which they do not have the legal ability to do, and I responded to his counsel's say-so. So I'm glad I printed
that's what I was
everything
trying
out.
to say, so they did receive it.
They did receive it, and
Did respond, and there were critical issues in it that our attorney, Matt, can speak to, but also Mark Donahue put in the letter.
I'm not gonna get into all the specifics of that at this point.
Well, there's a couple key elements of it. Number one, conflict of interest.
How so?
Stantec does work for us.
We have
Stantec does
cleared
work.
that.
We can waive that if we want.
And we have cleared
It's a
it.
waiver that we can do, and if
They-
we waive it, we waive it.
But the reason why we offered it, sir, because if you go forward with the contract and you hire a peer review, and somebody Googles it, Stantec and Saxon Partners, they'll find that they're working for us. You Googled my name in Stantec or Facebuff in Thorndike, you'll feel
We're the
that,
ones that should be concerned about that, not so much you.
no, but from an appeal standpoint, you open yourself up to an appeal if you haven't discussed it and people haven't disclosed it, okay, we're comfortable waiving it. That's what Mark Donahue's letter is about.
There's a
Nobody
conference.
responds.
Mis-
I'm comfortable with
So,
it.
and Mr. Chair, Mr. Barber spoke at length with Stantec, and they provided us a summary. They don't currently, particularly the people who would be involved in reviewing this project, are not involved in any work for Saxon Partners. And it's been fully disclosed, and it's been reviewed by the town administrator. And there is no conflict that is of concern or that interferes with the same people at Stantec who may have done work for them. They provided a detail of the work that they've done for Saxon Partners. So again, you know, you know what's frustrating about this? And I'll just say, I stood right there next to that podium with Mr. Barber and Mr. Calhoun on the night of the first hearing. And we discussed Stantec, and they worked with Stantec prior to this application and submitted information. And at no point did Mr. Calhoun, before they filed this application or from the day they filed it until tonight, ever mention this. So this is an argument of convenience tonight, and it is not an issue as I've reviewed it, as the town administrator's reviewed it, and as Mr. Barber has reviewed it. So I recommend that the board vote it. I will revisit it again. I will re-review Stantec's disclosure. And if there's a problem, then we'll let the board know at the next meeting. But there shouldn't be, you know, at this point, they raised a concern on May 21st that they just got the proposal that they're claiming they haven't seen, even though he got up and said, we just received this proposal. At the last meeting, he got up and said that. His lawyer sent the letter referencing the proposal he's saying he hasn't seen. And now it's this late date, and now he's seeking more delay. There is no reason, in my opinion, for the board to delay a vote to authorize this. As happened with the other 40Bs when there was questions about scope, whether it was traffic, civil, you recall, there were all those questions with the different engineers. And the town staff, town administrator, the department heads, I was on one of the calls and met with those consultants and said, this is what you are permitted to do under 40B, and this is what you are not. And the town will not pay you using their funds to do work that's not appropriate under 40B. This is not the board's first rodeo. It's not the staff's first rodeo, nor mine. And at this point, it's just seeking delay for the sake of delay in order to keep this review from happening. And I recommend that the board take the vote and allow the staff to administer it as has happened on all the other 40B projects. That's my recommendation.
One quick point. Ms. Murphy likes to testify on behalf of other individuals, and she made a very grand position that at the first meeting, she said that Stantec was working with the town. We had no objection. You didn't hire Stantec then. You hired Merrill Engineered and Howard Stein Hudson. This is the first contract you are moving forward with Stantec. And the only point we're trying to bring forward is full disclosure. Did this party...
It's so disclosed.
And I have... Never mind.
Okay, hold on, Susan.
You guys make your own decisions. You understand where we're at.
You know, Mr. Chair, there were concerns by the other two 40Bs as to the amount of the estimate that Stantec had provided in those projects, which was $50,000. And Mr. Barber actually, with the town administrator, got a proposal early on for this project that was $50,000. And they've been working with Stantec, saying that is not appropriate, it needs to be reduced, et cetera. So if Mr. Calhoun would like to criticize the town for actually diligently working to try to make sure that the cost of the peer review was scaled appropriately and make sure it was a more appropriate amount before the contract was delivered to him, then that $50,000 proposal could have been delivered to them earlier, and the town has a copy of that $50,000 proposal from March. So as I'll say it one more time, I could stand on the spot. Mr. Calhoun, Mr. Barber, and myself, he's here, he can attest to it. Stan Tech is going to be involved. Oh yeah, great, we talked to Stan Tech beforehand, we've already had some information. This is all revisionist history. He knew Stan Tech was being engaged even after the board discussed Merrill and Howard Stein Hudson, and there's plenty of documentation and record for it, emails, conversations, etc. So again, my recommendation is the board take the vote, allow the staff to administer it, and if there's an issue, we'll certainly bring it back to you. That's my recommendation.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Well, we need to move, right? I mean, we need to get this going anyways.
I don't know what your contract is for.
$38,000, is that what it is? I mean,
He
is that what-
has a
the
copy.
task?
But it's
He
an
received
but it's
it
an
on May
estimate,
20th. It's an estimate.
I've been told by Mr. Barber was here that he said it might be 15,000 if you get 20,000 in your account. I mean, the clarification that we're asking for is, what are they looking at? What is this for?
We'll give you the contract.
He has the contract.
I don't have the contract.
All right, so fair
Okay,
enough.
can I have?
So he's gonna get one.
Here's the contract. Here you go. So, thank you. He has, in fact, I have the letter from his counsel referring to that exact contract.
Okay.
Okay?
So gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Oh, we need the contract. Oh, no.
I'm sorry, can we just refer to it and I'll give it back to you? Thank you. Apologize for that.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the Stantec Consulting contract dated March 21st, 2026 for peer review of the water and sewer system design associated with the proposed Hathaway Road development. Contract signed by Isidore Sator and Brian Shea.
That's correct.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.
There you go.
All right, so, we are on now for June 20, we already scheduled for June 29th.
You have to do a continuation.
Why
You
do we
have
have
to
to continue?
vote.
It's already on.
You got to vote to continue it.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
I thought it was already scheduled for another date. It was
No, but
not.
you didn't, you have to vote to continue it to that date. We have it on the calendar, but.
Okay, but it was never done.
Yeah.
All right. And are we still fine with the time constraints? Yes, we are. Because that would be the last date that we could actually vote on it, right? Would be the 29th?
6 o'clock, right? Yeah, 29, yeah, 29, yeah.
The last date would be the 29th that we could vote on this?
29th right now, well, July 7th.
Okay, July 7th, okay.
But 29th, you're not having another meeting between June 29th and July 7th. So right now, June 29th would be
June
your
29th would be the
last
date.
day.
All right.
Well, you would not to vote, close the hearing. You then have 40
Yeah,
days.
I understand.
And you can spend the 40 days crafting conditions that they'll never see.
Well, we're
That's
not
the
going to do
option.
that. We don't want to
Yeah.
do that. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to continue.
I make a motion that we continue comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-3 to June 29th at 6 PM.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need a
Aye.
second.
Oh, it is
Oh, I
second.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Folks, you have to be quiet back there. We're still in session. It's June 29th at 6 o'clock here in this building.
Okay, and what's on July 7th?
Nothing's on July 7th as of yet. That's the deadline for us to actually close the public hearing. I thank you. All right, so gentlemen, is there any other business that needs to be discussed? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.